Islam Dunk.
Well, Bob Doe, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm fine. Can you hear me? Hear me? Hear me? No, I'm just kidding.
That's funny. No reverb here.
Well, that makes you sound more of a presence. You know, it gives your voice authority, having that reverb, like, you know, I'm God or something. You know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he.
No, that's
spoken.
Okay, Bob Doe. Well, you know, while we're waiting for him to call back, if you could just, I know many of the listeners tonight have heard many of your presentations, but if you could please tell the listeners a little bit about your background and maybe why we call you Bob Doe.
Well, are you there? Hello?
Yeah, now I hear, what's that interview?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I know I've got so many different beeps on my end here. So, okay, you're fine. I was a high-ranking member of the Communist Party from about 19. It started about 1992. The Communist Party started to reconstitute itself. Well, Michael Savage, if you're out there, let me go through the whole thing. He seems to be repeating everything I'm saying, you know, and I get on his show at night. And if you're out there, Michael, just get your own material, please. No. Anyway.
Copycat.
Or at least, you know, donate some money, Michael, to it, you know.
There you go.
Anyway, yeah, copyright. That's what we got to get copyrighted. Excuse me. Anyway, the Communist Party really started to reconstitute itself after the Soviet Union, and that was about 1992. Really started to pick up steam here in America. I didn't join until about 1994, 95, about 1995, and I was with them until about 2005. And first, I worked my way up. I had a printing business, and they liked it because a lot of the left-wing stuff I was doing out of my small print shop. I had a fairly large press, a couple of them, and maybe a couple helpers. But it was a small business. But I worked for first in the Hotel Del Coronado. I ran the print shop at the Hotel Del, and that's where I learned printing. I worked under a very left-wing guy, M. Larry Lawrence, and he was the head of the DNC at the time. And I did a lot of political printing for him at home and in my garage, and kind of under the table, smear campaigns for other people. I went from there, a very, left-wing place. I went there to the Communist Party after my stint in the Hotel Del for running the print shop. They eventually closed the print shop and were farming everything out. M. Larry Lawrence became the ambassador to Switzerland after the Clintons appointed him. I've met both of the Clintons, helped arrange parties. I went out, took photos, did little, ad pieces, got things ready for the media, called media contacts. So I had a lot of experience doing things like that. I started joining the Communist Party. I was doing they were printing for the flyers for the organizing, and later I went up pretty fast. Usually they wouldn't let people move up that fast. They want to, it's a lifelong effort, because usually like the informers and the infiltrators and stuff, they don't last that long. They can't afford to, so they usually like to see 8 years or 10 years before you really move up. But they trusted me, and I started getting more into the inner circle workings of the Communist Party. So I eventually wound up an organizer, and it's funny, that's what Obama was listed as in 1985 at the Chicago office. That's another Communist Party office there. But no one's saying anything about him except for Michael Savage. So anyway, at any rate, that's my history and background. I organized.
But okay, when you say the Communist Party, you're not referring to CPUSA. And you also, something you mentioned your first time with us was that nobody ever even used the word communist.
No, never did.
And out of all the millions of people in the, different front groups and organizations and different leaders, none of them recognize that or mention the name or even know who they're working for that matter.
But we were card-carrying members. I mean, I had dues payments. I paid about $150 every month. That dues were determined at the start, and by how much your ability to pay. Of course, it's marked from each according to his ability to, each according to his need. Best describes, how they operate things. So mine was about that, but we had a lot of different members. Dues ranged from $25 a month to $50 to $100, $150. Some had higher level jobs. They were teachers, and their dues or payments were higher. But I mean, a lot of money was coming in. I think a lot of money was coming in from a lot of money from the mob, money from the globalists. So they're all linked together. I mean, this whole and its power and these. I kind of looked at it as the reason I joined. I felt I was a poor working white person, and I felt powerless. And here, this was cool, and here, I finally had a sense of power. But really, while I was a member, I mean, we had people everywhere. We down at City Hall. I get parking tickets fixed. Have a problem in court or something, I get access to attorneys. I went to law school myself as a member of the National Lawyers Guild. So it really was a kind of a skull and bone society, the way I looked at it, for poor people. And it was kind of a power thing. And that's what they market. That's how they get people in.
And part of your meetings consisted of infiltrating government, law enforcement, infrastructure,
yes.
Things such as that. And another part of your role was organizing and orchestrating basically violence and hate groups and riots and right. Wars.
We said we stand for ending racism, forever, but that is couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, we instigated race riots, and we looked at everything as one spark could, create a whole forest fire. That all we needed was that one spark to find the Rodney King incident, or it's all about separations of the races and get them, turn them against each other. The Communist Party really works actively on opening up the borders. They're trying to, teach the Mexicans Marxism, and that's where I differed with the Communist Party. I said, what communist nation can you just walk into the border? And that's what really was the beginning of my leaving them, was the problem, the immigration debate, the problem with our open border. And they were just trying to, undermine everything we got here, and get the Mexicans here and turn them against the ruling class. Basically was the ideology that we get here and make them hate the wealthy. Well, the Mexicans, trying to teach Marxism to a Mexican is probably about as easy as trying to teach a pig how to fly a Cessna 172. It's a very highly evolved. What backfired is now they just hate all white people, and they perceive every white person as rich, when only really about maybe really rich white people, about 3 to 4%, and the rest of us just fall into the 97% of the other category. So it really kind of backfired on them in that sense, and that's how the Communist Party figures that they would turn. It's called cannibalizing somebody. They brought them here as laborers, and then the Communist Party was trying to turn them against their wealthy masters. So
okay.
and then create some kind of civil unrest, and then go in and take over. You create a problem, and then you act like the saviors, the solution to it, and that's how the Communist Party operated. So they're facilitating.
Well, you were organizing and orchestrating violence and hate with other groups, not just the illegal Mexicans crossing the border.
Exactly. But I mean, the illegal Mexicans are so stirred up right now. I mean, well, we were talking about that earlier, about the hate summit they're having tonight at USD College. Peace be with you is their motto, and that happens to be the motto of the Muslims. really makes me sick. And that's what they're having right tonight. We're discussing that. And everything is the KKK, the skinheads did this, the KKK did that. 70% of the hate crimes right now are Hispanic on whites. Hispanic males committing acts of violence against whites. And on K Street down here, I believe it was in the K Street up north of here. I guess it runs through by Crosby or whatever. A carload of Mexican guys got jumped out, and they beat a white homeless guy to death. And that happened yesterday. But yet that's not a hate crime. You know, it just was beating up. Of course not, yeah. Nothing. Everything. So, you know, they cite 2 instances of there's some guy with a swastika. He beat up a black guy in a bar. It could have been they're fighting over a woman, or they're fighting over something, you know, and you just happen to have somewhere in his body a swastika. So it must have been a hate crime, and he was charged and convicted of a hate crime. And this is
those are the types of things. I mean, those are the people you worked with that have designed these legislations, that have orchestrated this hate. Well, and other groups, I remember you said that you would recruit radical Muslims, and organize hate so that would hopefully be carried out against Americans. Well, you know, I realized that was your job and everything, but you know, when we had you on the one night and you said that all Muslims, you know, you said they wanted to kill us, and I understand where you're coming from because you have the background of training people to do exactly that. But I also have a hard time believing that everyone of anything, any religion, race, size, group, whatever, is hateful or even aware of the hate and evil that the leaders might represent and practice.
Well, do you know what the 4 swords of Allah were?
Do I know what?
The 4 swords of Allah.
I do not, and that's what I'm hoping you and Dave are going to teach me tonight.
This is the whole structure of Mohammedanism, which is Islam, which is the Quran, and this is what God, Allah, came down and gave Muhammad on his 40th birthday. And he came down and he gave the first sword of Allah. With his first sword, he was to kill all the Christians and Jews. The second sword, he was supposed to kill all the people who believe that there are more prophets than Muhammad. The third sword was the apostates. The fourth was and kill all non-believers. But the first sword of Allah was to kill the Christians and the Jews. This is the whole structure of this religion. And that's why
that's in a Bible that they all read, or is that like the elitists at the top, just like you with your pocket watch and your secret handshakes as you're orchestrating the demise of our nation? I mean, all communists weren't part of what you were part of.
No. I would not say that. There are some more, I would call them democratic communists who truly believed in democracy and say that we have not seen communism yet on this planet. You know, and I have to tend to agree with them. And I don't think we're ready as a human race for that. I mean, maybe 1,000 years from now, you know, God help us if we're still alive, we can have some form of, collective living. I mean, we lived on that way for tens and tens of thousands of years before the start of the empires. And we lived in these little communes, and we really were decent to each other. You know, there were rarely a murder, or people depended on each other. I mean, you look at, you know, before 3000 BC, before the start of these empires, and the start of surplus, basically. What we had a we learned how to preserve foods and things like that, and so we had a surplus, basically. And then we invented surplus labor. And then all of a sudden we needed walls, and we needed police, and then we needed armies, and that's where that evolved. But we go back dating, you know, 100,000 years of living, you know, as mankind, pretty peacefully. So there's something. I mean, I believe in capitalism now. I'm a Christian. I believe in forgiveness. I pray every day. and it really has added something to my life, and it's helped me an awful lot personally. So I'm not I'm against these people, what they're trying to do, because they're trying to destroy my country. And this is my
And you're talking about the party the globalists
and the communists and the globalists. They're all working together. They're hand in hand. Yeah.
Well, let me. I'd like to. You became a Christian basically during this period where you were responsible for orchestrating these riots and wars and things.
No, I became after I left.
Okay,
it was pretty much in my last maybe 6 months there, but it was I was headed out of there, and I think they knew that too.
Well, what was it? Because Jibreel, who you will be, who we'll bring on in just a second here, was a Christian and converted to Islam. So what was it in your life that led you to Christianity?
A need in my life, a need to believe in hope in something, and have a sense of grace, of forgiveness. But can I go into something else about the 4 swords of Allah? I mean, this is very grave, because the secret code name, the project that Iran's building, the nuclear weapon that they will want to use on Israel, is the sword of Allah. That's the code name for that project. Now, why would they name that when the first sword of Allah was to kill the Christians and Jews? So I can't say enough tonight to warn the people. I mean, the same protests are going to come out when we raise a finger against Iran. We've already done that, but we've raised a fist against Iran now. But
so the same people who are orchestrating the wars and bombing people and fighting are the exact same people that organize the groups that say that they're against the wars or against.
Exactly.
Okay.
We're starting to see the kick up of the ratcheting up of the marches. There was a huge demonstration against Blackwater security, against the war, and that's how the Communist Party that's what we operated. We just got in. Some of them, the marchers got burned out. We just get a new crop. And
what do you know specifically about the groups, like Muslim groups in particular? How would you? Well, okay. Did you study the religion before you recruited radicals?
Yes, we studied it. We were learning, because in our meetings, we were learning bits and pieces of the religion. But I've never sat down and studied the Quran. Some parts of it I've read. But
so you've actually read and studied, what you're going to hear talk with us about tonight for quite a long time.
I'm sure he's more versed in that, but it's like anything. I mean, how can he call himself a Muslim? They wouldn't even let him in his background into their religion. It's like I used to fly an airplane, and I'm coming on tonight and explaining the wonders of flight. He's coming on and explaining the wonders of Islam and how wonderful it is, but he's never flown an airplane. But he's read everything, every book, every manual, every nut and bolt on that airplane. He probably knows IFR, VFR, you know what I mean? Every single detail about flying an airplane, but he's never flown one. That's why I would really like to see, an imam or something. I'd really like to debate. And I'll admit, I mean, he probably knows more about the Quran than I do, and has more, but I know about the basic fundamentals of Islam. It's not a religion of peace. There are Sunnis, though. Okay. There are Sunnis. There are 2 factions there. There's Shia and Sunni. So the Shia are about 15 to 20% of them, but they're a large majority in Iran, and these are the real ones that believe that Muhammad is the only prophet, and these are the real radical ones. The Sunnis believe, like you were saying, that not every Muslim is bad. Well, the Sunnis believe that there can be more prophets other than Muhammad. maybe there's a new prophet now that's going to come in. It's like we believe in the second coming. They believe that a new, maybe more peaceful Muhammad is on his way. Do you understand? So that's what the Sunnis believe. But the Shiites, they're always coming in and blowing up, going after the Sunnis. And that's the reason why they're doing that, because Muhammad told them to. Said there's no, you take one of the swords of Allah and you kill, the non-believers or the ones that believe that there are more prophets other than Muhammad. But right now, I mean, even President Bush said I made a mistake and went into Iran. I should have went into Iran, and totally, he really messed up big, So that was one of his big blunders. But getting back to Mohammedanism, I just I can't say enough that there are enough. If you take about a billion Muslims, and you're talking about a billion of Muslims, but if you look at 15 to 20%, you still have 200 million out there who believe that all the Christians and Jews should be wiped out. And that's an awful. How do you know who's living down the street if that's what that person believes? You don't know that. They had an FBI, 2 of the 9/11 hijackers. There was an FBI agent living in the same house. You just don't know what's on their mind. And I feel a whole lot safer. And the same thing that the Communist Party, it did to what they're trying to do is do legal defense against these Muslims to take the heat off them so they can go about their dastardly deeds here in America. And it's the same thing they're doing to the Mexican people. You're seeing it tonight on the Summit of Hate. And it's a summit of hate. It's a summit of hate against white males, predominantly. That's what it is. That's what it boils down to, and that's what we orchestrated. And I would have loved to take a camcorder and gone tonight and spoke, And she asked me if I wanted to be one of the speakers, and God, I would have loved to, but I had to come back. I felt this was important tonight to talk about this, and I'd like to hear what he has to say too. But I mean, I really don't know how that he can defend Muhammad. I mean, his life was just filled with murder, with rape. I mean, I would call sleeping with a 9-year-old girl, I wouldn't call that love, would you? And he married her when she was
I can't imagine that.
So let me read this. The Prophet engaged me when I was a girl of 6 years. We went to Medina and stayed at the home of Bani al-Harith bin Khazra. Then I got ill and my hair fell down. Later on, my hair grew again, probably stress. And my mother, Ruman, came to me while I was playing in the swing with some of my girlfriends. She called me and I went to her, not knowing what she wanted me to do. She caught me by the hand and made me stand at the door of the house. I was breathless then. And when my breathing became all right, she took me some water and rubbed my face and head with it. She took me into the house. There in the house, I saw some Ansari woman who said, "Best wishes and Allah's blessing and good luck." I don't think that's a love story. And having, my hair fall out and then grew back and I became very sick. Showing signs of stress. This was his favorite wife. And then he was 54 years old at the time when he had sex with this young girl. And then after having sex with this one girl, one night, he woke up, went into a village filled with Jews and killed them all. That doesn't sound like a person who is sane. We have a word for that here. That's called criminally insane.
Okay,
and
so
I don't,
basically Muhammad is like Jesus to a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's their Jesus. And I don't, I don't know how anyone could defend somebody like that. This was,
Okay.
Muhammad started out, he was born in about 570 AD. From 595, about 595 AD, he married his first wife, she was a widow, about 40 years old. She was a business keeper. I think they had a produce and move. But before he married her at 25 years old, from 570, he lived in he was actually thrown out. He was like in Mecca. He grew up there. His parents died very young. His father died when he was born, and his mother died about 6 years later. Muhammad basically grew up like one of these Tijuana street kids. It was very street smart, and much like Saddam Hussein did. And he knew how to cheat people, though. He knew how to steal. He knew how to forge things. He knew how to manipulate people. And he was very good at it as a kid like that, living on the streets. I mean, basically, from the time he was 6 years old until he married a rich widow, he learned to live like this. And he was thrown out of everywhere. Everywhere where he lived, he was. And many times they chased him out of Mecca into Medina. Both Mecca and Medina they chased him out of by throwing rocks at him. So, I mean, he just learned to run when the gig was up. He just learned to run very fast. It wasn't until he married Khadija, which he became a quote-unquote respectable businessman. And it's not really that she gave him respectability. He still was a crook. I mean, up until then, he was robbing the very same caravans that he was owning now that were coming into. That's how he made his living as a young gangster. By knocking over these caravans and killing people, and so, but he was really robbing the same caravans, and I guess maybe this marriage was actually more of a truce than it was a marriage. She just probably didn't know what was going on, and this is probably a marriage that was more like a contract or something that he would knock over any more caravans. So this guy, that was until his murderous campaigns really came after Aisha, his young child bride. He had about 12 different wives, but his favorite was the young girl. And I don't, I mean, I know our guest is going to come on tonight and try to defend that, and a lot of Muslims do, and I read a book and defending that this was some kind of love story. I just don't see how you could possibly defend somebody like that. I mean, if I were an attorney and trying to script a defense for something like, I don't think I'd even handle the case. I don't think I could even stomach something like that. And it was fitting that Muhammad finally came to his end at 62. After he wiped out that village of Jewish people, a Jewish woman came to him and served him a leg of a lamb that finally poisoned him. One of his food tasters had tasted it and died very quickly, but Muhammad, during the last 4 years of his life, the poison that she used slowly killed him. I imagine it was some kind of metal, poison-based metal, that would slowly he deteriorated into epileptic fits. That would, you'd probably say they used something like arsenic, lead, or mercury, or something like that. So, I mean, he really lived a life of rape, and it was a just end for him that a woman had killed him, because he really had. This is rape. He lived a life of rape, perversion, destruction, and plunder. And at age 62, Muhammad gasped his last breath on the lap of his 17-year-old child bride, Aisha, who watched him die a slow, long, horrible death.
Wow. Bob Doe, I really want to hear more about that, but I also want to talk a little bit about our guest's background. We were having sound problems earlier, so we called in on another line, and then we'll get back into that, but I'm also curious. We know why you converted to Christianity, but not only is he going to defend and debate the things you just talked about, he did convert from Christianity to Islam, so I would like to hear that as well. So you all right with bringing him on?
Sure.
All right. Gabriel, can you hear us?
Hello? Yep.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Oh, we have a little, we're just going to have to deal with it. Thank you so much.
I changed phones.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is
Well,
it better
thank
or
you.
worse?
Well, it's faint. It's not as bad, but we're just going to have to deal with it, I guess. I wish it was different, but what can I do? We can pray,
Okay.
right?
Can you just tell me as to what is it their feedback? Am I being heard twice, or should I speak slower?
Yeah, it's feedback.
Okay, is it good enough that people can understand what I will say, or?
Well, whoever is on the interface, I would like for you to type a yes or no. Okay, we got a good sound. Okay. All right, it sounds good. We're going to go ahead and, anyways, we will do the show. Oh, it's a little bit of an echo, but apparently from the feedback on the interface, it's good enough to continue. I know everybody's been dying to hear this show for a long time, so, and I do believe, obviously not everybody is going to agree. But we do have a lot to learn from everyone, and it's very important to hear both sides. We have no problem attacking the messenger here. I mean the message, excuse me. No problem attacking the message. We attack messages every night, but we don't tolerate attacking the messenger. So, okay, we got to talk a little bit about your training and education in school. You migrated from Romania about 10 years ago.
Right.
What I'd really, I guess we got to the point where the feedback was so bad was when I asked you what it was that led you from Christianity to Islam.
Right. Basically, I was brought up in Romania. Romania is declared itself as a Christian country, and obviously with very strong cultural Christian ties. Can everyone hear me?
I hear you great. It's just for some reason I'm reverbing when you're on. I don't know. It's very strange, but we hear you perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Just before I start, I just want to settle a few things, just really fast, a few disclaimers. When I refer to, I'll start by just, there's a standard start for each Muslim that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us. So we say, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praise due to God, the beneficent, the merciful. We think it's very good to invoke him before any kind of speech and to start everything in his name. And of course, invoking his two best characteristics, which is the most merciful and the most gracious. So I'd like to state, start in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Another thing, I will, from now on, most likely I'll probably switch back and forth depending on, the flow. I'll refer to God as Allah, okay? Allah is the Arabic word for God. God actually, G-O-D, is a pagan, I would say a pagan origin, a Germanic pagan tribe origin. It's not condoned by any scripture in the Aramaic or the ancient Hebrew. The actual word, that's closest to us because of the relationship, the sister language of Aramaic which Jesus spoke, which is Arabic. The word is Allah in both languages. If you look at throughout the Old Testament, you either use Elohim or Yahweh, right? No one will call God as God, G-O-D. Just like I had to correct you when you call me Craig, that my name is Gabriel. I don't think God would like to be called by a name that he is not. That's not his name. So, I'm just going to call Allah for God. Again, it's a very, you can check throughout the Schofield Reference Bible. Will give you, this green light to see that it's okay. Christian Arabs throughout the world use this word, Allah, because it only means, the Creator, God, the one, the object of worship. So whether you're Christian, or Muslim or whatever, if you speak the word Arabic, if you speak Arabic, you will call God Allah. I hope everyone's okay with that.
Well, absolutely. And let me just make sure everyone understands. Is God Yahweh, Allah, is that the same person that Christians read in the Bible, or not?
Okay, well,
Not
it depends
person,
where you
but
put it. Depends how you put it. If you're talking about the one who created the heavens and the earth, the one who is above everything, then yes. If you are calling about the New Testament triune God, then it's a no. It would be a no, right? Because both Jews and Muslims will worship the oneness, the one of God, the one and only God, which Jews call Elohim or Eloha. Elohim is the plural, Eloha is the singular. In Arabic, it will be Ilah, which comes from the word Allah, and is linguistically derived from there. So again, the Jews and the Muslims, depending on what they will speak, whether it's the ancient Semitic languages of Israel, whether it's Aramaic or Arabic, the Allah or Ilah is the root word for both. In the case of the New Testament, the triune God is something unknown to both Muslims and Jews. So in that case, no. But if you're referring just strictly, even Christians would refer strictly to God the Almighty, the Creator, okay, just Him Himself, then yes, it would be the same God.
Okay. And
Is that
then,
clear?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for clearing that up. And then one more question I asked Bob Doe earlier, but I would like for you to answer. Is Muhammad the prophet comparable to Jesus Christ? You know, Muhammad to Islam, Jesus Christ to Christianity.
Right. Muhammad, peace be upon him, is not the same as Jesus, peace be upon him. Muslims believe Islam, first of all. I don't know what, most people think that Islam means peace. Islam does not mean peace, okay? In Arabic, the words always have a root of a verb root, okay? Islam is comprised of two parts of this word, Isl and Salam. Isl means submission, and Salam means peace. So it's submission to achieve peace. But Islam in itself does not mean peace.
It means the service of religion.
Yeah. Excuse me, Bob.
The root of Islam is Aslam, is the verb root. It means to serve religion. It doesn't mean peace. Well, you're mistaken there.
Excuse me?
You're mistaken there.
Hello?
Hello?
I listen to you when you talk, and I would really appreciate if you would listen to me when I talk.
I just thought I'd add that.
No. Listen, you can talk after. I think that would be respectful, from both. That's what I agreed with the moderator, that you would talk first, and I would talk, and everyone listens. So if you please would like me to speak, then please give me the go. That way I would speak. But if not, I do not appreciate being interrupted. That happens throughout many conversations with some Christians, not all of them. Some of them are very respectful, but a lot of them will stop me. So if you please allow me to give my side, then if you have a rebuttal, you can come back and you can easily go ahead and, rebuttal what I said if you think it's wrong, and you can provide the proof for that. Okay? Moderator, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll continue. I did not say Islam means peace. I say it does not mean peace. Okay, it means submission to achieve peace. Okay, if you want to go and debate in Arabic about the root words and about the verbs, then we can do it easily. But isl wa salam. Okay, submission to achieve peace. Okay, submission of your will to the will of God. So Islam does not mean peace. It means submission to achieve peace. A Muslim, the meme at the beginning of the word Muslim would imply an action now. Okay, the person who does that action. Okay, Muslim. Okay, the Muslim is the one who does this submission to achieve peace. In Islam, we believe in all prophets, okay, that, for example, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, Jonah, John the Baptist, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon him, right? So we do believe in Jesus, but we do not say Jesus and Muhammad are the same. They came in different times. They came under different circumstances. They had different and slight characteristics which are very different. For example, Jesus was born from a virgin birth. Muhammad was born from a normal birth, okay? Just like Moses was born from a normal birth, okay? Moses headed, people. He was a leader. Same was with Muhammad. Jesus himself his ministry was only about 3 years, okay, and he was not really, I would say, an army leader or a general or someone who would move a lot of people. Right? He was preaching certain different, issues, right? Depending again on the time and to the people that he would preach, right? So Muhammad came with different circumstances. He was faced with different issues with different people, and Jesus, he was faced with total different things. Okay, so we cannot, again, I restate, we cannot compare the two. Okay, there's other Old Testament prophets which could be compared to Muhammad, and they had a lot of the same, life story. A lot of the same things happened to them that happened to Muhammad, but that's, we can get into that later. But I'll just tell you a bit. Is that okay? Is that good enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll go really fast. How much time do I have? I mean, just to know exactly. I don't want to cut from his time.
We didn't get in, we got into a little bit of Bob Doe's history, and he read a little bit, talked about why he believes the way he does.
Okay.
I would also like to, not go totally in depth, but enough where, put the points how you feel. Then I would like for you both to exchange a dialogue on the certain points so that you could elaborate more.
Well, okay, I'll give you some of my background, then I'll go into some of the points that he already made, right? Because he already, I think, is at an advantage because obviously he's on the offensive. I'm not going to take a defensive stand today. I don't think I have to defend him. And as he was saying that, I don't know how anyone could ever defend, this man in a court of law. Well, if you were an attorney, I think you would provide proof. And I don't like to attack the attacker. I think that's this debate tactic is often misused in, limiting someone from pointing out the mistakes of the other person who is debating. And I think what I'll do is I'll just point out the mistakes that he's doing or the inconsistencies or the misinformation he's giving, and then I will try to recorrect it or put it within the proper context. So if I was an attorney, and you'd be in front of a judge and you would be an attorney accusing Prophet Muhammad, then obviously the judge would ask you for proof. And that's exactly what I will ask you for proper proof. So anyway, from my background,
my background, sir, how many points are you going to go into that we're going to debate? I mean, I know this, sir, I work for the Communist Party. I know how we train people to debate.
Bob, excuse me, Bob. This is the second time you're interrupting me, Bob. You're not exercising, proper manners, please. This is the second time interrupting. I listen to you.
Another thing we do, disarming people, right? Not debating, I'm disarming. That's another tactic we teach.
Well, let the listeners be.
You're attacking me and saying that I'm trying to, I'm going on defensive and all this. I'm just correcting some of your
Listen. I listen to you. Excuse me. I listen to you, and you should listen to me, okay? And let the listeners, okay, the people who are out there and listening to both you and I, let them decide for themselves, okay, who's providing the best proof, okay, and who's,
strapping a bomb onto one of your children and sending them into.
I'm sorry. I don't. Listen.
I'm not hearing you. I mean, I can't believe it. You keep going on peace, and it's almost like you're saying something over and over again.
I'm not saying anything about peace, okay? I explained the meaning of...
Islam is a direct root for peace. It means peace. It does not.
I did not say that.
Translation.
Excuse me, moderator. Moderator.
Okay, well,
could you please mute him?
I think we should, actually, what we should do is maybe stick to the points that have already been presented, because it sounds like it's already going to get pretty heated, and it's obviously a passionate debate. So, Bob Doe, if it would be okay, I do want to hear a little bit more about his history, and then we're going to go, let's say, 5 more minutes, and then maybe, let's see, what do we do? I'll mute you for 5 minutes, and then we can come back and talk about those.
Yes, that would be appreciated.
Shortly. So, and no disrespect, Bob Doe. I mean,
You want me to shut up for 5 minutes?
We'll do. That's all. That's all. Just, yeah. Well,
okay.
we'll all get our say, and I'm sure everyone's going to want to say something.
Did I cut people off, or did I cut anyone off, or I talk out of? I just don't, because this I feel passionately about.
No,
Okay.
no, we're everybody's passionate, obviously. So, anyways, I'm super excited to hear both sides, and there are two sides of every coin. So we will definitely get in. We heard where you're coming from already, so now we're going to hear where Jibreel is coming from. And we will be right back in about 5 minutes, and then you could ask specifically him why he feels, um, well, why he's so against how you feel. So, okay, Jibreel?
Okay, so again, this was the second time you cut me off. And when I did agree with you on the debate, you did agree that I would speak, he would listen, he would speak, I would listen. Actually, he would speak first and I would listen. I don't think I cut him even once. I think everyone would agree there. So please, I really appreciate it. I mean, this is, just good, morals. We should respect each other. We can respectfully disagree. I am very passionate about this, but at the same time, I can contain my passion and I can respect, the other person. So I would really, respect. I would really appreciate if you would give me some time, as he did. He had about 15 minutes, and I would really appreciate that. I would have 15 minutes of uninterrupted time to, give you my background, and then to just go into a few of the points that he made. Is that
Absolutely.
okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Going back to what he said, I did not say Islam means peace. Okay, I explained the root words. Okay, and I said in the negative, it does not mean peace. Does not. Okay, I hope all the listeners understand that. Okay, I explained the root word, submission to achieve peace. Okay, submission to the will of God. It does not mean peace itself. So I hope that's clear. Okay, so anyway, my background, as I said, from Romania, Christian family, Christian culture, Christian country. I grew up in a kind of like a ghetto, you would call it. We were taught Christianity from early stages, not like schools in Canada. Actually, there in public school, you are taught, the Bible from, it's part of the curriculum. We were also taught history very early, actually, a lot of Romanian history. And Romania has a very deep history with the Turks. And the Turks, obviously Muslims, they were called the infidels, the ones who worship Allah, who is a different God. And, even now I remember poetry against them and hatred that was, instilled from early ages into us against Muslims and Turks. So, having grown up with that, the only thing that I really knew was the Bible. I really believed in God throughout my life since I was young. I mean, I don't obviously not want to boast or anything, but I used to go to church by myself. Even try to take my family. I would push them to come to church. I would take kids from our neighborhood to church. I was very passionate about church. When I moved to Canada in 1998, I actually met Muslims, and I realized that all the teachings that were given to me about Muslims were not necessarily correct. I met kind Muslims, I met righteous Muslims, people who would do anything, to stand for truth. People who prayed all the time. People were, very kind and loving. People were very truthful. So I started questioning some of the teachings that I got, and actually that's what started to get me involved into looking into Islam. And that's what I did. It came from there about, grade 9, 10, 11, especially grade 11 at the peak, grade 12, OAC, which is the last level in Canada, that I actually started reading and looking into Islam. Started praying for guidance to see what is the truth. Started going back to the Bible, and I had some very spiritual encounters that I'm not going to discuss right now, but some very strong spiritual encounters that had led me to at one point to actually leave Christianity. I was for about 1 year. I didn't really believe in anything. I believed in God, but that's about it. I was just still searching. And throughout, as I reached university first year, I actually got into to research more and more, and that's what led me to Islam. I started reading more about the Bible. I really did not believe the Bible to be the Word of God anymore. That's what I was taught, but when I actually put it to the test, according to my studies, it did not fit that. I started looking into the Quran. I started looking into Islam as a religion. And the concept of Tawheed, of the unity of God, in essence and in worship was what really was the strongest pull to Islam, even before I knew some of the other proofs. And that's what my Islam started about 5 years ago. And yeah, that's pretty much about my background. Um, so everyone hear me?
Oh yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay. So that's how that's when I started, about 5 years ago, I started getting into, more serious into Islam and started studying. I started learning Arabic, started how to read the Quran, I started acquiring, lessons and going to different sheikh, which are the scholars. I started reading through books. I started also at that age because some of my friends, obviously, very strong Christians, when they found out that I became Muslim, they tried to obviously convince me otherwise and to debate me. It happened. Obviously, I was referred to the websites that are about Islam on the internet, the books, the arguments that people often use, the old arguments which come obviously from the old Orientalists such as Montgomery Watt and Sir William Muir and so on. These are the same arguments that have been throughout history. And slowly, one by one, I said, well, if Islam is the truth, it should stand to these arguments. People have attacked, Christianity for the longest time. People have attacked every kind of, understanding. And we're strictly talking here about scriptures because, you're Christians, I'm Muslim. So I had to put it to the test, to see if it stands against the arguments, and that's what we will do today. Again, I will, see if the arguments, and I want everyone who is out there and is listening. It's not about me or Mr. Bob Doe. It's really about you doing your own research. Okay, whatever people present, this is just a play of the tongues. Sometimes it's debates. That's why I don't really like debating. When I really emailed you, I said I will agree to a discussion where I'm not interrupted, and I will give, he can give his side, I'll give my side, and so on. So I really, urge everyone to, to go and read through the Quran and read through the biography of Prophet Muhammad, and they themselves. I think everyone has a brain, and they're intellectuals. People went to school, they know how to read. I think they can easily go and find out for themselves. All these issues that are being mentioned can easily be accessed, online or on different books, different mosques around the country. People can go and ask these questions. Having said that, I will get back into the points that were made really fast. Again, I think these discussions would need hours and hours. Obviously, it's not something they can settle over, I would say, 3 hours or so. I settled it over 4 years. So, and I'm sure Bob, he himself studied for a very long time. But I'll just start back to the point of the attorney issue that he mentioned, right? If you would be an attorney and you'd be in front of a judge would demand evidence. So that's what I'll do today. I'll try to demand evidence. So the first thing that he says that, mostly all Muslims are hateful and they're against, Americans. Then he also used a term, Mohammedism, which is, again, just a term used by Orientalists. It doesn't exist in Islam. It's not found in the vocabulary of Islam. It's something that Orientalists have referred to, just like Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism. All Christianity comes from Christ, right? Hinduism comes from Hind, the actual place where it started. Buddhism from Buddha. Okay, all these isms, they come from the actual founder of those religions. But there's no such thing as Mohammedism. Okay, people do not worship Muhammad. People don't take Muhammad as anything except as a prophet. Okay, he was a prophet just like Jesus, Moses. The people who followed, Jesus at their time, we believe they were Muslims, people who submitted their will to achieve peace to the will of God, and they were followers of Jesus. People who were, following Moses at that time, they did not have to depend on Muhammad or anyone else. They depended on the guidance of Moses. So again, there's no such thing as Mohammedism. It's Islam, and that's it. Allah. He talked about the 4 swords of Allah. First one, he said that it was given to kill the Christians and Jews. Second sword, that there's no more prophets than Muhammad, to kill those people. Third, for the apostates. Fourth, I guess, I didn't really catch up on the 4th one. But I would like to hear the proof for that, okay? When you talk about something, right, you have to quote your proof. If you were to talk about the Bible and the elements of Christian doctrine, you would have to cite sources from the Bible because that's the Word of God, right? same thing when you talk about Islam and certain issues about Islam, you should cite proof from the Quran. I challenge you to give me any place where it says the four swords of Allah in the Quran are killing the Jews and the people who don't believe that there's more prophets other than Muhammad, the apostates, and whatever the fourth one was. Okay, so again, I ask you for proof. Everyone, I hope you're my witness. I ask you for proof from that and from the established Sunnah, which is the prophetic tradition, the authentic one, not the obscure that a lot of the Orientalists have quoted over the past centuries. We're talking about authentic, okay? When someone hears about a certain story, if it's not authentic, they should not quote it, okay? If it's already established not to be authentic, it should not be quoted, right? Like no one would go and to the Apocrypha, the other books of the other Gospels that were thrown out, the Council of Nicaea. No one would go and try to quote from there, to prove Christianity, right? They would stick to what they agreed to be authentic. So let's stick and have the same standards, and we can move properly from there. But again, I challenge you to give me the proof. Actually, the first thing that was revealed from from Allah, God, to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the word Iqra. Okay, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. It says, read, okay, in the name of your Lord who has created you, right? So the first thing that Prophet Muhammad was ordered was to read, okay? And he said, Ma ana biqari, I am not of those who read, okay? So the first thing that Prophet Muhammad's order was for knowledge. It was something that throughout, the history, Muslim scholars agree that the most important thing, and the hadith of Prophet Muhammad said that the ink of the scholar is more valuable than the blood of the martyr, right? So scholarship and learning is so important, and it's so crucial to humanity. If we don't have the knowledge and we talk about certain things, easily you can incite people in hatred towards each other. Easily we can come and bring about misunderstandings, and we can corrupt certain meanings, and right away people will start hating each other, right? So we try to eliminate that, and through knowledge only we can discover the truth of things. Anyone who wants to see whether the Quran is truth or the Bible is truth, he would go and read them, right? They should stand for themselves. They shouldn't be listening to myself or Bob, debating and telling them which one is the correct one, right? The only thing we're doing here, we're trying to clear some misconceptions, right? But people should be able to tell themselves, okay? He said that he never really studied the Quran. He studied part of it. Again, I based my arguments on the Quran, the prophetic tradition. He also said he would like to debate an imam. Again, I'm not an imam. I'm a person. Okay, I don't think Islam did not come for imams. Islam did, like Christianity did not come for priests or for pastors, right? It came for everyone. So everyone should be able to do their own studies and know why they believe in what they believe. I know why I believe in Islam and why I am Muslim. So everyone should know, right? You don't have to debate an imam or to talk to an imam. If you want to, you can easily do it. Obviously he would be more knowledgeable than me, but I think, I can, really, talk to you about these issues if whatever I can. If whatever I cannot, I will tell you I don't know. Easy. There's nothing wrong in saying I do not know instead of making something up or misquoting something. Then he talked about Sunnis and Shias. Yes, there are two groups, and there's more than two groups. Just like in any faith, right, there's been people who have disagreed, right? This is human nature. We study in psychology. It's not the fault of Scripture. It's not a fault, really, of Christianity that people have split. It's the fault of people and their different understanding. Same like it's not the fault of Muslims that people have split throughout the history. There's been a lot of political tension between them, a lot of disagreements. This is human nature, and yes, people have split, and there's Sunnis and Shia. He said that the Shias believe Muhammad is, the only prophet. There's no more prophets to come. All Muslims believe that Muhammad is the last prophet. Khatamun Nabiyyin. Khatam is the actual seal of the prophets that it says in the Quran. There's no more prophets to come after him. All Muslims do believe, however, that there will be Jesus coming back, okay, who is in the heavens. We believe he was not crucified. He's in the heavens, that he will descend upon earth to establish the final justice. So both Sunnis and Shias believe that. They also believe in, the concept of Imam Mahdi, which is a leader who will come from the Prophet's family. He is not a prophet. He is just a leader, okay? So there's no more prophets to come. Jesus will come, but he will not act as a prophet anymore, except as the leader. The Sunnis do not believe that more prophets are to come. He said the Sunnis believe that. in a more peaceful Muhammad, to quote him, to come. They do not believe in the more, another Muhammad to come. There's no such thing. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is dead. I went and visited his grave in Medina last year, and he, I assure you, he's there. Um, Going, back to what he said. Some Muslims believe that all Christians and Jews should be wiped out. I mean, I really demand, the proof. We should establish the proof on the Quran and Sunnah, where it says that all Muslims believe that Christians and Jews should be wiped out. There is no such thing, and I would like to quote from the Quran when it talks about fighting in Surah 4:90. It gives the exception. In Surah 4, verse 96, it says, "Except those who join a group between you and whom there is a treaty, of those who approach you with their breasts, restraining from fighting you as well as fighting their own people. Had Allah willed, indeed He would have given them power over you, and they would have fought you. So if they withdraw from you and fight not against you and offer you peace, then Allah has opened no way for you against them." So you shouldn't act aggressive towards people who do not want to fight you. But if they incline towards peace, you also incline to it, and put your trust in Allah. Very, He is the all-hearer, the all-knower. This is Surah 8, verse 61. Okay? So there is, of course, in Islam, fighting, just like there is in anything, any nation, any religion that has been gone. Christianity has a very, very long past of fighting, right? Despised and contrary to the teachings of Jesus, right? We said, love your enemy, right? If someone strikes you one cheek, give him the other cheek. But Christians were forced to fight. They had to fight on many occasions. The Crusades, and throughout, the history, there was lots of fighting. Of course, people would say now, well, the Catholics were not really Christian. I mean, they were Christian for the longest time before the Reformation, right? So I wouldn't discredit them just like that. But they were, again, as I would say, there was fighting. There was fighting. America's fighting right now, right? Standing for supposed peace and democracy, right? In different countries. Many people have fought throughout the ages, depending what they stood for. Okay, and I'll quote you the verse from the Quran that talks about fighting. "And what is wrong with you that you fight not in the cause of Allah? And for those weak, ill-treated, and oppressed among men, women, and children." I repeat, "and for those weak, ill-treated, and oppressed among men, women, and children, whose cry is, 'Our Lord, rescue us from this town of people whose people are oppressors. And raise for us from you one who will protect, and raise for us from you one who will help.'" So the Muslims, of course, they have to stand for truth and for protecting the oppressed people. Okay? If I walk on the street and I see a person getting beat up, I should defend that person. Okay? Anyone, any Christian should do that. Whatever you believe, I believe that everyone should do that. Right? So of course there is fighting in Islam. Of course there is fighting in Christianity. But there's no such thing as trying to wipe out all the Christians and all the Jews. Okay? And I tell you, again, I will quote for you something very, very important here. Okay? For the Prophet, peace be upon him, said in Sunnah Abu Dawood, which is an authentic source, okay, he said, "Whoever oppresses a non-Muslim or usurps his rights or puts upon him heavier burden than his strength or takes his possession away forcefully, then I will stand as an attorney in the court of Allah, wherein the case against the Muslim will be heard." Okay, so Prophet Muhammad himself, this is Abu Dawood 30. Again, Prophet Muhammad himself said, "I will stand against anyone who will oppress, okay, a non-Muslim who is under contract." Whenever a Muslim and a non-Muslim are under contract, they're on peace terms, okay, all rights are respected, okay? You don't attack, you don't destroy, you don't kill someone unrightfully. When there's a fight between two nations or something like that, obviously you would not expect people to go and have pizza, right? They would fight. If a country would show up at the doorsteps of America, for example, I don't think America would call them for tea and say, let's drink, right? Tea. People have fought throughout, depending what they believe for. As Muslims, right? They believe for justice, truth, and and establishing the truth of God on earth, and they have fought, in defending the weak people and the ill-treated and the oppressed amongst men, women, and children throughout history. No one will argue that. No one will deny that. But just as no one would deny that Christianity has done that. Okay, so we have to get our stuff straight here that Muslims do not believe that all Christians and Jews should be wiped out. And if there are some of the Muslims, of course, there's always bad apples in trees. If there are some people who would believe that, then they're not really following what Islam is teaching, or they're not knowledgeable of what Islam says. Then he
Okay,
said that
so
Muhammad.
basically, you're saying that there's no violence unless somebody tries to oppress or hurt you. So basically, self-defense is what it
There's
means.
self-defense, or if there is an oppression in a land, right, a Muslim is required, but if there would be an established social system, Islamic country, right, there's no such thing as an Islamic country now. Saudi Arabia is not an Islamic country. Okay, it's a country that has Muslims in it, but there's monarchy in it, which is not Islamic. Okay, if there would be a country or a nation that is Muslim and have a Muslim leader which unites all the Muslims, right, then Muslims would, just like United States, they believe, that they stand for truth and they're propagating they're freeing Iraq, right? Then the Muslims themselves, if there would be a how would I say, an oppression somewhere in the land, right, they would have to stop it, right? Just like the police acts in the city. If they drive around and patrol, police is an establishment, right? If they drive around and patrol in the city and they see an oppression, someone getting beaten or something, they would have to stop that. They would have to stop that. So do Muslims. So does anyone. Okay, but as an established nation, okay, if the Muslims would be established together, of course, you're talking here about if there's a peace treaty, nothing, right? If people are attacking you, of course you have to defend yourself. If people are threatening you, of course you have to defend yourself. If someone is oppressing your country or your brothers or people who are not able to defend yourself, of course you have to go on the offensive and help those people. Okay, but we're talking here about it. What is the truth? What are you defending? What are you attacking? What are you going for, right? So there's a fundamental difference. If you look throughout the Old Testament, right, prophets, such as Moses, have attacked different nations who were not obeying God, okay? In Numbers 31, he goes on a big rampage and destroys lots of people, okay? He kills, unfortunately, which Prophet Muhammad did not condone. He did not allow, again I quote, he did not allow the killing of innocent women and children. Also, no priests, no monks, no, not as that. Unfortunately, as quoted by the Bible, Moses, killed any women, children, and so on. So Numbers 31st, anyone can go check it for themselves. So I don't misquote supposedly. But Prophet Muhammad, he said, you have to, okay, you have to fight for the truth. If you have to, at some point in your life, people are standing for injustice and they're oppressing people. Everyone should stand up and fight for the truth, right? So yes, there is fighting in Islam. But if people, as I quoted in the verse before, if they incline to peace, then it says, then you also incline to peace. Okay, so Prophet Muhammad's life was not filled with murder. Okay, I'll give you the exact quote. It was just shy of 4,000 people that they were killed during the whole life and all the battles of Prophet Muhammad. Now think about it, 4,000 people. If we are to compare that, okay, to some of the crusades or some of the world wars of what Hitler did, in the name of Christianity, right? We're talking here about Hitler, okay, who himself, thought he's a Christian, right? And I quote him from Adolf Hitler, in edition from 999, page 65, right? He says, hence today I believe that I am acting in accordance with the will of the Almighty Creator by defending myself against the Jew. I am fighting for the work of the Lord, he's saying, as a Christian. Right, and I can give you more quotes where he claims that he's Christian. Of course, people will not agree with him, right? Those are not the teachings of Jesus. But just like many, Christians believe that they do the will of God, so do a lot of people who are not informed about Islam and who are Muslims themselves, right? So again, we have to be careful as to what we define as fighting, what we define as defense, what are the reasons behind it, why did Moses fight, for example, in the Old Testament, why did these people, fight? Was there a reason? Were they standing for something, right? So we have to be very, very careful. And we have to be careful.
We've gone pretty in depth with this, and I know we have you for only a short time. I want not only for Bob Doe to be able to ask questions and vice versa for listeners to call in. We kind of skipped our first break, and I know you had to say a break, so why don't we take a short break, and then we'll bring Bob Doe on, and he can question you on any of that information that you just presented.
I just have one more thing, because I think I'm again at a disadvantage here, right? Because he's on the offense. He talked a few other things about Aisha, the wife, the 6-year-old wife of Prophet Muhammad. Then he also talked about, raping, and he talked about he knew how to cheat people before he married Khadija, and he used to, attack caravans before this. He made a lot of points that are very misquoted. He said he raped, he killed Jews, before.
Can a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old consent?
Oh, that's
that's a very specific issue. He's not.
Right. Well, do you let me
offending anyone? I mean, it is fact. It's historical fact.
Well, the historical fact is that he married her when she was 6, right? Okay, I'm not. There's no apologetics about this, right? And she joined his house when she was 9. Okay, now there's no disagreement about it. There's been some apologists who have tried to push the age further, but there's nothing to. First of all, you have the key term there is she married him. Okay, she married him. He did not rape her. He did not sleep with her. She was his most beloved wife. Okay, he quoted himself. He died in her lap. Okay, if you ever look at the life of Aisha after him, right? She was the biggest scholar of Islam. When she was asked about Prophet Muhammad, she said he is the walking Quran. He had the best character that ever existed. Okay, her hair did not fall out because she was stressed. Okay, I'm sorry, she got the jaundice and she was sick. Okay, so you have to get the whole story filled in. He married her. Okay, the custom of that time, there was nothing wrong with that custom. Sheikh Jalal, who's a very dear friend of mine, his mom married when she was 10. Okay, in Romania, not too long ago, I had an article of 2 gypsies who married when they're 11. All the human rights people stood up and started, screaming. Now we have to be careful that we take in consideration, okay, based from cultural differences and time differences, what was allowed at some period.
We will, but he has specific questions too, so we can't speak for him, and he obviously has.
I agree. I agree.
He's done his research, so we'll let him present that.
I agree with you.
Let's go to a short break right here. Hopefully we still have sound, and then we'll come back and discuss that.
Okay, just one request, right? If when he asks the question, I would like him, when I do answer, I would like him to just listen. I don't want to be cut off, because cross-examination to me is just going to become a mess.
Nobody's going to be cut off, but I mean, just like it's not a contest here, and
that's what I agree with, right?
Be able to say
that's what I agree. I will listen to him. And I hope he will listen to me.
Absolutely. Well, we're all listening, so let's take a short break, and we'll be right back on TruthBrigadeRadio.com.
To be part of the show, you can dial 1-724-444-7444. Enter the TalkCast ID of 11887 when directed. Let's get back to TruthBrigadeRadio.com with Psycho Babe Christie.
All right, welcome back, TruthBrigadeRadio.com. All right, we are speaking with Jibreel. I'm sorry, I don't want to mess up your last name. You spoke it so beautifully. And with Bob Doe. I would like to ask a question before Bob Doe, though. And this has to do with what you said about questioning other people's culture. And, being a moral issue and where to draw the line. But, for example, we have certain laws here in America, but we have 40 million people from another country, Mexico, whose age of consent is 12. So when they come here and rape our little girls at 12 years old, is it okay to claim a religious exemption or cultural difference?
Is that a question to me?
Yeah.
Okay, obviously not, because we're we have to make sure what we're talking about, right? When we talked about the issue of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Aisha, we talked about Arabia. Okay, we talked about here 1400 years ago. We're not talking about Mexico and America in the 21st century. We're talking about a certain span of time. We're talking about not someone from a different culture coming to another culture and raping someone. We talked about marriage, right? So we have to be careful with the choice of words. If a Muslim comes to this country, he has to, I repeat, okay, based on the contract, when he signs to his citizenship or his card, he has to abide by the laws of the country. This is Islamically, he has to, as a citizen, abide. If he is a minority in a non-Muslim country, he has to, okay, abide to the laws of the country. So obviously, you would not do that. But of course, even the United States have different types of understanding culture. The Mormons in Utah, they marry of a very slightly lower age, right? And that's what they believe, and that's their belief, right? They also endorse polygamy and so on. So again, we have to be careful about generalizing, and making sure we put everything in the context. Prophet Muhammad did not rape Aisha. He married her. She was 9, yes, but so do girls at 9 years old here. I'm a teacher right now. I taught this year. There's a lot of problems in schools, and parents complain. A lot of them are dating and having premarital sex, such at some at that age, right? So we have to be careful. A lot of the girls, where they hit puberty 9, 10, 11, okay, 12, depending on whatever they hit puberty, their constitution is, from a biological perspective, right? Some of them are already engaging in sexual activity, right? So we have to make a big distinction between, some of our daughters, right, already, looking into boyfriend, girlfriend issues and dating and dressing very, hoochie and so on and so forth, versus, the issue of marriage and modesty and piety and containing, oneself's chastity for husband-wife relationship. So this is something that we have to keep in consideration before we attack anyone. I mean, this has been
Can you tell us about female circumcision, and is that still going on?
Yes, it goes on in many African parts of the country, and this was initiated actually by Christians in Western Africa and some other African parts. And Muslims have taken it, and there's nothing that would say or would push someone to circumcise a female. Okay, there's no such thing as someone being told that you should circumcise the females. Okay, a male circumcision in Islam and for what it is in Judaism, and some would argue for Christianity as well, is a must based on the statements and the covenant that was taken with Abraham, with God, an everlasting covenant, mind you. That's what the word says in the Old Testament. But no, female circumcision is not something forced upon women in Islam. It's not something that someone should do. There's no,
Well, I got the source. You want the source. So the source
yeah,
is
I know. The hadith of Prophet.
Online.
Okay.
So it is about the Islamic religion and faith, directed towards Muslims. So.
Okay.
Anyways, that's where I got that. I'll post that in on the interface. Bob Doe, you've been very patient. Thank you so much. I'll shut up now and let you two have a discussion about some of these questions we all have presented here tonight.
Well, I hope you don't shut up. I mean, that's I like hearing you. I don't know.
Well, for some reason, when I'm talking, it's only with Gabe's line, and he's Gabriel, he's a special guest, as yourself tonight. So when his line's on, mine reverb. So I'll just, anyways, I'm going to mute myself and let the games begin.
Well, I mean, Christy, for one, I mean, he went on to so many different points, and that's, I thought we were going to maybe cut it down to 5 minutes or something apiece. I mean, if you wanted, I'm glad he isn't quoting a bunch of scriptures out of the Quran. I don't want to come on here and quote a bunch of scriptures from the Bible. I mean, there are other persons who can do a much better job than that. I've been a Christian about 3 years now, so, and I do study the Bible, and I know there's some things in there that are questionable, but I have to go on and say that, the development of social democracy, basically living by the Ten Commandments, and it really is Christian socialism. And then that was with the advent of that, with the creation of that, our humanity, our world grew so much better. I mean, our lives right now, even being a poor white, I still live better than J.P. Morgan did in his time when he was alive, with my cell phone and everything, the conveniences that I have. I live right now many more years. My years are a higher quality of life than he ever lived, and he was the world's richest man back then. And it was because of this Christian socialism and a social creation of Ten Commandments, which evolved into our Bill of Rights and our Constitution and everything else that we hold dear and have. And we're having that threatened. You're right. He said if someone shows up at our door, enemies, that we're not going to invite him to have tea. Well, that's exactly what we did. We invited Jose to have tea. So he's very skilled at downplaying and talking down these things. That's exactly how these people came to our country. They said, "Oh, we'll wash your car. We'll do all this. Oh, we're a religion of peace." Well, he's quoted as saying that that he was when he first came on the show, that he was talking about Musliman, Imam, Islamism, it all has the same root. Islam. He's quoted as saying it is peace, and it's not peace. It's not even near that. As far as as far as the reality of Islam, we don't sacrifice as Christians. We don't sacrifice our children. See, they believe that if you put a bomb on your kid, that you sacrifice your only son. You're becoming closer to Allah. That you actually spread the energy of that child, your beloved child, throughout the whole community, so they all benefit by this blown-up kid. We don't do this as Christians. We send our Marines and we get to conflicts and things like that, but we don't send our children off with the intention of sacrificing them. We give them the best body armor. We give them the best rifle that our machinists and everything else can come up with. We give them our best airplanes, our best squadrons that we do, but we don't have an ideology that we're going to sacrifice and benefit everything. One thing about Aisha's dad, it was under great protest that Muhammad said God had came to him and told him to take this girl. So, the whole family was protesting, that she didn't, just saying that, well, yeah, everybody did back then. They married at 6. I doubt a 54-year-old man even back then was probably raised some eyebrows, and it would now. I can't even believe that. I can't even believe that somebody would defend something like that. Christy, you have, I think believe a 9 or 10-year-old daughter yourself. But you couldn't possibly believe that even people back then. I still think it went on by force by these horrible little dictators who became despots and thieves and everything else. Yes, they probably took women by rape, and a lot of women. I imagine this list of 12 or 13 wives that he had. A lot of them are victims, and so. And I guess is very good at just downplaying all this and just smoothing it out, just creating an aura where we come against our oppressors. Why did 2 men who wrote a book, Egyptians, are serving a 10-year jail sentence for writing about Muhammad, and that here's a relationship with that young girl, and they intimidate and they kill people for anyone who speaks the reality of Islam and reality of what goes on inside their religion or inside those mosques. They threaten, they kill, they go after. Salman Rushdie, he's hiding somewhere in England. They had to knight him so he gets Secret Service protection. If you have to defend your religion with threats of death, what kind of free speech is that? You're not even like I said, our Christian socialism and democracy came rooted from the Bible. And we all have the first thing we have in our Bill of Rights, it's freedom of speech. Do you have that? No. You go against Muhammad, you go against the teachings, you die. And there's nothing else. There's no in-betweens. That is the reality of Islam. I don't think you can defend any way to what's going on right now. My background, my other side of my family was Scandinavian. They came from Sweden. But I'm sure you know the Provost Indian tribe. That's where, you know, and they're Canadian. I mean, our family goes back, you know, a couple hundreds of years here. That's where they're a very patriotic band of Indians. They were code talkers. They went in here. My father was on the first wave at Iwo Jima. He went with 10 other Marines. They were assigned. He was a radio man. He was a code talker. And he went in, the boat, the duck, the landing vehicle came down. 10 young Marines were assigned to him, and all of them were assigned to get my father up on the beach that morning in Iwo Jima, and dig a hole for him so he could broadcast the radio reports in their own native language. And all 10 Marines died that morning, and he lived. And that's the kind of people the provost are. I won't say were, they are, they still are. So I'm not coming on here saying, oh, I'm, you know, part Native American and we've been so oppressed, and oh, you know, that's your, I leave that to you, sir, you know, because I know all the tactics. And just come in, you know, about flying in here under the radar and teaching other people how to fly into our nation under the radar with ulterior motives. And it's not putting it past me, you know. This is how we have a democracy here. It's under attack right now from all different sides, and you know, it's under attack from a lot of the Arab people, and a lot of the Arab people have converted. And I truly believe them. There are some Christian Arabs that live here in my community, and I truly believe them, and I trust them. But I just can't. You know, for the life, I can't believe that, you know, that Islam is, or this whole thing is a religion of peace. I just can't believe it. I mean,
Bob
a lot
Doe.
of the things in the Quran, a lot of the things. Can I go on?
Yeah, you know how I hate to interrupt, but it's been more than 5 minutes. So if you wanted to go a couple more extra minutes, then I'll give him the extra minute to.
Well, yeah, he went on before 5 minutes. I mean, he went on for I think I by my clock 25 minutes. So.
Okay.
You know, that's what I'm saying.
let
you made so many points that you wanted me to talk about that. You know, I'm still going down a list. I wrote them down, but. I mean, understandably, I mean, what you're saying about the Quran, it was an oral, it was passed down orally. It was much like my Native American great grandmother, and everything was passed down orally, but it had to be passed down from one generation to the next, specifically, exactly the way, and we call it a bundle ceremony, where things, traditions, and I went to it, and this is where we pass down our knowledge and tradition, and still do. But there are some writings and books that, you know, basically, but that's basically the Quran. It was started about 70 years after the death of Muhammad. So a lot of these things where he said, and, you know, and I understand it, but the basic ideas and the basic principles are there, and we don't want those principles and those ideas. Why are those people, why are they so backward in those countries? Why are they killing each other, cutting off their hands, and sewing women's vaginas, and killing, stoning women to death who show their face in public? I mean, it's extremely backwards. It's because of this intimidation, and that this is the word of somebody or something. And the intimidation, not a democracy, a religious democracy. It isn't. It is not a democracy. You follow these teachings, or you're gone. And he was saying something about they have the right of self-defense. Well, if somebody is oppressing us, well, it's almost like me down here being a blonde-haired, blue-eyed person in Chula Vista. I'm the last person, we're the last maybe 5 people out of 300,000 here. But yet every time I speak out, they act like they're defending themselves until they kill the last blonde-haired, blue-eyed person. And that's exactly what you're doing, sir. And you know, it's the same tactics. It's the same tactics we train people in the Communist Party in. And I don't think that you're, you know, really Muslim. We would go convert people. We would go out to the prisons. We would go out. We'd convert people we use Muslims to convert people slowly to our party. We had a lot of dues-paying Muslims in the Communist Party, So I really believe that's where you're coming from. It's not, you know, you're not a convert. I don't think there's any way to sew that foreskin back on, you know. So, you know, I'll shut up and listen to someone else talk.
Okay, Gabriel, do you have a response?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, again. Again, when I started first, I demanded some proof. You know, I hope all the listeners can hear that he's, you know, just giving his opinions, his experiences from his past, from the Communist Party. Okay, Islam is not communism. You know, please make sure you stick to Islam. He said, I'm smoothing things out, you know, that we're good at this. I mean, you know, again, this is attacking me. That's okay, no problem. You need to show your proof, okay? You need to show your proof. People have hated Islam and Muslims for the longest time. And about 200 years ago, there was a man by the name of Thomas Carlyle, okay? And he went and said, the lies which well-meaning zeal has heaped around this man, Muhammad, are disgraceful to ourselves only, okay? Because he actually went and he studied and he looked at, you know, the history of Prophet Muhammad, you know, and he saw that the people, the Orientalists at that time, were doing a big injustice, okay? They were just talking about certain things, but people have actually gone into research. They had good things to say about Prophet Muhammad, right? I mean, Bob has only bad things to say about him, but a lot of people had very, very good things. Now, someone who is objective would see this as bias, right? I mean, if you actually went and studied Prophet Muhammad's life, how could you miss some of the teachings that he gave, right? Michael Hart, a very renowned historian, says that, you know, he chose Muhammad to be the number one choice, okay, before Jesus, the number one choice as the best leader, okay, and he chose him. And then Jules Masterman, okay, he also chose Muhammad as number one best leader, and he's a Jewish person. Many people, George Bernard Shaw, he said Muhammad was the most successful of all religious personality. George Bernard Shaw also says, I've studied him, the wonderful man, and in my opinion, far from being an antichrist, he must be called the savior of humanity. This is called in the Genuine Islam, Volume 1, number 81936. Okay, this is George Bernard Shaw. So all these historians, people who have converted to Islam, you know, like Muhammad Asad, who was a Jewish writer, Dr. Lawrence Brown, who was in the U.S. military, right, as an eye surgeon. A lot of people who throughout centuries have converted to Islam, intellectuals. Someone should question as to how come they did not see some of these things that Bob saw. These people are very prolific. They wrote a lot about Islam. They wrote about Prophet Muhammad. A non-Muslim person right now, like Karen Armstrong, who is non-Muslim but writes about Prophet Muhammad. John Esposito, okay, for the Center of Christian and Muslim Understanding. Many people have had good things to say about Muhammad. So when we base these arguments, we should really, really look at what did this person teach. And I'll just give, he said, you know, you shouldn't quote, I don't want to quote, I'm happy he's not quoting Quran verses, but I should quote things because we have to look at the teachings. He is attacking a person based on his teaching and his actions. Right? The Prophet, peace be upon him, said in Musnad Ahmed, okay, 16, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, it is, what is the apex of faith, asked Muaz ibn Jabal. The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, it is that you love solely for the sake of Allah and you dislike solely for the sake of Allah. Okay, you hate for the sake of Allah. And secondly, that you keep your tongue occupied in the remembrance of God, of Allah. What else, he asked, Mu'adh further asked, that you desire for others what you desire for yourself, and do not desire for others what you do not desire for yourself. So, I mean, this is kind of like the golden rule, right? I mean, he taught so many principles of goodness to parents, okay? Animal rights at a point where, I mean, people were not even thinking about animal rights till the 20th century, right? He taught about animal rights. He taught about so many things, okay, even to the extent of if you see something in a street and someone might trip over it, you should remove it from the street, okay, that's a charity, okay? You should smile, that's a charity, okay? The Quran says, lower the wings of mercy to your parents, okay? Do not even say to them, oof, okay? So now this teaching versus what's happening right now with our some of our children, right, when they swear at their parents, they even beat them, right? So there's a fundamental difference there, right? He taught many, many, many good things. That's why Muslims believe he was the best, okay, of men, right? If Islam was so backwards as Bob puts it, how come Islam reached the walls of China with less than 100 years? He'll say the sword. Historians will disagree with him. Okay, a lot of people. How come when Europe, Christian Europe, was in the Dark Ages, okay, suffering from the plague, Muslim Spain was enjoying street lights, public washrooms, universities, and hospitals? If they're so backwards, how come he said they cut hands and stoning of women who show their faces in public? Who does that? There's no such thing as stoning of women who show their faces in public. Okay, there's no such thing. They're not backwards because their religion tells them to be backwards. They're backwards because the colonial powers have gone into these countries and destroyed their systems. Okay. Okay. So let me finish. Okay. Let me finish my time. You had your time. Okay. I would appreciate. I didn't laugh at you, and I would appreciate it if you listen to me. Okay. So it's not Gabriel's opinion. Okay, our listeners and Bob himself can go and research these things as to what happened to Islamic India and what happened when the British went in there. What happened to the missionaries who went in there and what did they do to change the educational system? What happened to the North African countries after the world wars, and so on and so forth. What happened to Egypt, who he's quoting that they're holding 2 people for 10 years. Do you know how many Muslims are in jail in Egypt for preaching Islam or for talking about Islam? I have friends who are in Egypt. Okay, the Muslim Brotherhood, the totality of people, from 100%, you would say 20, 30% are right now in jails. Okay, anytime an election comes, they're jailed. Anytime 2 people stand in front of a mosque for more than 10 minutes, they're jailed. Okay, so I don't think Egypt is a very nice representation of what Islam is. First of all, because they're not a Muslim country. Okay, there's Muslims in that country, but there's a very, very fundamental difference. Okay, so again, we go back to Prophet Muhammad, and he quoted something at the beginning. He said he knew how to cheat people. Okay, he was, he was chased out of Mecca and Medina with rocks. Okay, no, that was actually out of Taif. Okay, Taif was when he went to preach to the people the oneness of God. Okay, so he was not chased out of Mecca he was chased out of Mecca later on because of what he was preaching. He was calling people to stop eating dead meat, to stop killing their women, the little children. When a woman would give birth to a girl, they would bury her alive, right? Omar Khattab is reported saying that his daughter was playing with his beard and putting the dust out of his beard while he was digging her hole. Okay, so you're talking here about a man who came and stopped these things, stopped idolatry. Okay, people were worshiping stones and all these other things. So he came to stop these things, and he called people to the oneness of God. Before he married Khadija, he didn't have no women. Okay, he was called Al-Amin. This is reported from Ibn Ishaq, from all the Muslim, Bukhari, all the authentic sources, okay, of Islam. So I challenge him to bring any proof from those sources that people considered him less than Al-Amin, which means the trustworthy. Okay, people used to call him that. That's why he got married to Khadija, because she sent him with a caravan to Syria, and a servant reported how honest he was. That's when she proposed to him to marry. Okay, the message of Islam did not come before he married Khadija. So how come he said that he used to go into streets and kill and attack caravans, and then when he married her, okay, they had like a contract, a marriage contract where he stopped or something like that? I mean, come on, we need to really get our proofs and our straight facts. Okay, so I encourage the listeners to go and actually look into these things and look into the life of Prophet Muhammad. Okay, then he said that a Jewish woman killed by poisoned the sheep. Yes, that happened after the Battle of Khaybar, and later on, okay, that someone did poison the sheep, and he lived on from there. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I finished science, and there's no poison that would kill you in 3 years or 2 years, right? I mean, he didn't even swallow it. Some scholars have said that he died because of this poison, but this is just an opinion of some scholars. Okay, there's no proof that he died because he had a fever and he died because of this. His prophetic career was ended. Okay, because he finished the revelation. It was reported authentically that the angel Gabriel came twice to review the Quran with him, and he knew that he will die that time. Okay, in the last Ramadan, which is the month of the fasting, right? They said he raped. Well, prove it. Where did he rape? He never raped. How come, and he raped? So you have to, be very careful that you push that. Then he went on to say, I mean, there's certain double standards, right? Especially when it comes to the violence. If Prophet Muhammad supposedly, I mean, let's say supposedly, which there's no proof for, goes into, what Bob says, that he attacked and he killed and so on, right? And I gave the quote that there's 4,000 people that died during his prophetic, career. 4,000 only. Now, if, and people would say, why are you quoting, the Bible? I mean, I really, really ask everyone to go and check Numbers 31. Okay, this is Moses, a prophet of God. And this is God telling him in verse 17. Okay, it says, now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that have known men by lying with him. But all the women, children, that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. Keep them for what? For slavery, obviously. Okay? So, I mean, if Moses was a prophet, if God himself commands Moses to do this, let's say, Bob will go into, the killing of the Jews and to, that he took captive women and so on and so forth. If God commanded in the Old Testament, again, I repeat, Numbers 31, verses 17 and 18, if God commanded Moses to do this, okay, and he was a prophet, right, a prophet, an amazing prophet, and supposedly Muhammad fought wars and he took captives, how come, the double standard that Muhammad is such a bad person, yet God supposedly ordered Moses to kill women and children when Prophet Muhammad, I quote, Prophet Muhammad said, do not kill women and children, okay? This is in the hadith reported. He saw women and children, who were dead on the field, on the battlefield one day, and he totally forbade the killing of women and children, okay? So again, going back, someone might say, well, this is not Jesus' teaching. This is the Old Testament teaching. But you have to be cautious here, okay? The Jesus, okay, the God of the New Testament is triune God. And Jesus' existence, supposedly according to Christianity, is eternal, okay, before the existence of him on earth. So the God, according to Christianity, that ordered the killing of those people, of women and children, okay, in a village in one day, you're not talking about the whole prophetic career of Prophet Muhammad, which is 23 years. In one day, okay, women and children, the same God that ordered that killing is obviously the triune God, right, according to Christianity. Jesus is part of that. So Jesus did order that. So we have to be very careful what our double standard is. We have to be careful as what makes a prophet, it doesn't make a prophet. And we have to provide proof. If we say Muhammad raped, we have to provide proof that he raped. If we say he looted and he attacked caravan before he married Khadija, we have to provide that he did this. Okay?
So we've gone on to actually 12 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
We moved to 5 to 10, and 10 got to 12. So
thank you.
No problem, Bob Doe.
That's part of it.
I heard you back there. I know you have a lot to say.
That's part of the the tactics of disarmament, how to disarm people instead of debate them or go to the points and he said we don't kill women and children, but how come the whole Jewish tribe of Nadir was massacred and there were women and children there? And he came preaching of peace, and that was after they were outraged by a very famous Jewish poet that Muhammad didn't like his poetry because he hated him and he was critical of Muhammad. So and that's the whole the very essence of Mohammedanism is to not, it's not a democracy. You follow this or I'll kill you, and basically that's it. I mean, you can't how do you have the very basic freedom of speech? That's what we hold so dear. And you're saying about conforming, flying in under the radar to our nation, maybe through Canada or wherever, and then start coming in here and then saying, oh yeah, we're peaceful and all this, and and get us to let our guard down, and our guard's not going to become, it's not going to come down. It's just not going to happen. I mean, he keeps going on and quoting about different people. He quoted George Bernard Shaw. He was a Communist Party leader, very good in England. He's noted, and the people that he quoted are intellectuals and leaders of the scholars, these different society of scholars, and these like Robin McCubbin, out here locally, and a lot of these. I think they just, a lot of these professors, I think they're just, they're miserable people. I mean, if you sit with a classroom of, people throwing paper airplanes at each other all day, and you're trying to, do something, and I guess they just go crazy after a while, or But it's the same thing that what he's saying is the same thing that we were preaching and training our people to do, to go into these the prisons, to send our Muslim leaders, to use the attorneys to defend these people, anything. And it really was a way of subverting our Christian democracy here. And I think we have to be very careful to listen to this. And I like the first thing he came off and said about the being a religion of peace, and that I'm going on the offensive. Well, I'm not going on the offensive. These and to provide proof for all of this, I mean, the proof is there. It's in their own writings, and they even put it in the Quran. I mean, it's widely known. I mean, he said things about stoning women, that doesn't go on. Oh, come on, that is almost going on every week over there. And ask some of the Marines that are coming back, stories. And actually my business with my son, we move a lot of Marines every day, and I'm hearing stories one after the next about this. And he certainly has courage for coming on and trying to defend people like that, and a 54-year-old man saying that was commonplace back then to marry children. I don't think it's commonplace anywhere. I think people reject it. He's quoted Salt Lake City, but very in those sects, most, the 99% of the people there are with anything. There's, few wackos in any group. You go, I think anywhere in America, you go and you find a majority of good-hearted people who want to help and they want to do good. And some people, they come here and they take advantage of our good nature. And that's their nature. And they fly in under the banner of peace. And that word, we should be very, very careful of. And especially that summit on hatred tonight, peace be with you, is now the motto of USD. I can't even believe it's gone beyond. I think these, I think these professors just, get so, they just blow a fuse or something. They go crazy or just after so much. So I can't go on and on and on. I'm sure our guest, Gabriel, is convinced himself of this. I really think he's been recruited, slowly, and these universities have a way of doing that. You're cool, you're chic if you join these people. You aren't this, wallpaper, this, fly in the wall or, piece part of the wallpaper anymore. You walk around the university, with your head up high, and you're respected by other, I understand how this works and operates, and that's how I operated. I would just go to take classes at a university just to set up one of our tables so I could recruit more people. And we used religion as that. We even would go into the Christian churches and would try to recruit people out of there. We'd go into use a lot of converts from Christianity into Islam, or we either way. But the bottom line is we were recruiting people into totalitarianism, and that's exactly what this religion is all about. It's not a peaceful religious democracy where we have a written law. He was saying this is a law determined, the supreme is determined by men. We don't have that here. We have a set of rules and laws that are on paper that we hold dear to us. Not that one man or a small group, and that's what we're doing on Thruth Brigade Radio all the time here. We're we're losing a lot of the fundamentals that made us this great nation. That's why everyone wants to live here, and they always hold us up. And he said also that I said, well, how come they're still backward? We're in 2008 right now, and they're still living like they're in caves, freaking caves all day. And he blamed it on America and just said that's the same crap that we would promote. Oh, they're, the Cuba, the struggles in Cuba, we've oppressed them for so long, and yada, 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 and we've oppressed them here, we've oppressed them there, and if we wouldn't oppress them, well, Stalin won the war. I mean, they fought back there. Why didn't they grow as a race after the 1000 AD? I mean, they should have, they fought back the Christian oppressors. They should have grown after that war. after the Battle of Yarmouk. They should have grown after that, but they didn't. They didn't take any of this newfound freedom that they fought. They won every battle they fought. What do you mean oppressors? I mean, that's that's the, I don't understand why, you're saying that the whole is colonialism. What is colonialism? That wanted, people to live in a civil manner? Is that colonialism, or is it to be hated? That we don't run around, going, and killing each other, and, that people don't throw spears at each other every day or shoot at each other every day, wanting to live have a decent, normal, respectable lifestyle. And that's why everyone wants to come here, because they want to live that way. And I think the Mexicans, the ones that, they don't like Mexicans, that's probably why they're trying to come here, because they've had it with it, there. And I don't blame them, But that's, trying to go around the world and create some just sense of civility, but this is the reason why we have this. Is this Christian social democracy that we have, and that's what really has built the world for the last 200-300 years. We've had time to paint, we've had art, we've had time to stop and smell the roses. There've been some oppressors to us, to our cause, but we've done very well for ourselves. And I just think our guest has been taken into not really he's been taken into, it's more socialism than anything than religion. And I guess you could call this this globalism as a cult. This I would say this socialism as a cult. It's a religion unto itself. I remember I was involved in the Communist Party. A lot of these leaders and followers, they truly believed that they were going to change the world in 20 years, that they were going to create this workers' paradise in 20 years, and it really is a cult, and it's a cult where a lot of it's coming from the feeling of entitlement, and then.
So, are you saying that Jibreel isn't like a true Muslim?
No, that's what I'm saying. Thank you for getting to the point. I was dancing around it, but I don't really believe that he's a true Muslim. I believe that he's been, he's gone to these colleges or universities, and then at the universities he's been taken in. Probably had, we'd find rather shy people, ones that are a little bit outcast, ones that, and I believe anyone can be.
So do you think that maybe he hasn't been exposed to the violent element? Or
Exactly.
Why would somebody who's not a true Muslim be defending Muhammad?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think he's ever spent time and seeing a bomb go off like Nurse Olivia, and gone to a wedding party and a happy event like that, and seeing some kid walking in there and blow himself up. I don't think he's ever seen that, and I don't think he's ever been in Iraq or or Afghanistan and had a bunch of people chasing him, and and had to fight off whatever 400 of these guys, and you just haven't seen, like I haven't talked to, I haven't been there either, but I've talked to an awful lot of young Marines who've come back from there with with these stories of rape, of murder. And I mean, they quote one Marine who maybe gets caught for shooting a Koran. I can't believe that. And the president, how messed up we've become that our president, apologizes for this. How many?
But
rapes,
didn't a couple of kids go to jail for selling or a book or something, or Koran or something like that?
Selling a Koran?
Or no, writing a book, I guess, about Muhammad, or.
Yeah. A couple of them went to jail for writing 10 years in prison. So
Okay.
that's what I'm getting back to saying. I mean, if you have to use intimidation, force of threats of murder, do we do that for the Bible? Do we come out and say, well, this isn't right? Moses was, he wasn't really that great of a guy, and he killed and ran crusades himself, is that do people come after, other Christians come after us and try to kill us? Are we only led to believe one interpretation? No, we Christians, we sit down, we we debate. We have Bible study, and that's the whole reason. There's not one person. I was, well, maybe he meant, maybe in Genesis they were talking about this, and we debate about it. It's open for discussion. That's called a Christian democracy. A religious,
okay, well, let's do this.
Democracy.
Bob Doe, I gave you the 12 minutes because he had 12 minutes last time, but
okay.
Let's try to get, we're going to get this next response to 5 minutes, and then your rebuttal for 5 minutes, and then we'll take callers. How's that? Until the rest of the time that we have Gabriel on the line. Thank you so much. Okay, Gabriel, do you have a response for that? And once again, I said we're going to keep it to 5 minutes, and then the rebuttal for 5, and then we'll open the lines to callers.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, going back, we've been here for, I think, over 2 hours now, and Bob has not provided any concrete evidence against Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He's just flying left and right. He's talking about paper airplanes and, discrediting people, saying, I quote, I think they're miserable people. Okay. What kind of arguments are these? You just attack and you say, I'm not a true Muslim. How do you know my heart? How do you know how can you even, look into my heart and say what's a true Muslim, what's not a true Muslim? I think that's, that's not correct. So again, you have to come up with proof, I think. I hope everyone's hearing me properly. We're talking here about Prophet Muhammad, okay, not Bob Doe's, version of Prophet Muhammad. We're talking Prophet Muhammad as recorded to the Quran and Sunnah, okay, not as, given by a Palestinian child who blows himself up and, people think that his energy will be, to the community. There's no such thing in Islam, okay, as his energy. Some people might believe that. Okay, some people might go into many people believe different things, and represent religion, like Timothy McCain, right, when he bombed the abortion clinics and so on and so forth. Many people have thought different things, okay, so and supposedly represent the religion. But we have to look, again, I repeat, we have to look at what the faith itself teaches. What did Prophet Muhammad teach? What did the Quran teach? Keep it within a proper context. Okay, look at the whole picture. We can't just come here and say, proof. You attack freedom of speech. Jump all over the place and not give any kind of, proof. Okay, so I really again challenge you to come up with anywhere in the Quran where it say to kill women and children and to massacre ox and sheep and everything that you find there in one day. Subhanallah, is if that is what supposedly Christianity stands for, right? You talked about Christian democracy. Where does this Christian democracy come from? From selective verses from the Bible, from only selective parts, or you take the whole thing, right? What is the Bible? Is it parts that you think would apply, or is it the whole thing? As a Muslims, we take the whole thing, okay? If there's verses about war, verses about love, verses about oppression, verses about attacking, defending, you take it as a whole. Okay, we don't go and say, oh no, you know what, I don't think this is, we're going to debate over this. You're going to debate over the Word of God? It's very clear in letters what God instructed Moses to do. It's also very clear in letters in Deuteronomy 17:3-5, okay, which says, and he should go and worship other gods and bow down to them, or the sun or the moon or the army of the heavens, and you must stone such one with stones, and such one must die. Okay, so it's in the Bible to stone people, right, who are supposedly of different faiths, or people, are of different beliefs. So should I go now and say, well, all Christians, if they would be true Christians and would abide by the Word of God, they would stone all the Muslims? What kind of, conclusion should I be left with, right? So I don't think you should debate the Word of God. You have to see, is this really the Word of God? Do we selectively, take care and say Christian democracy? What kind of Christian democracy is that in Numbers 31 or in Joshua and Deuteronomy, where killing and stoning is condoned and encouraged? Massacres. That's not what Prophet Muhammad taught, and that's why he was called mercy to mankind, okay? Because he came and restricted all these rules, all these so-called, rules and corruptions of different scriptures and of people, right, that Jesus himself, went against, right, and he condemned, right, calling the Pharisees, broads and vipers and, hypocrites, okay? That's what Prophet Muhammad came to upheld. Okay, so we have to be careful here. Rules are determined by men or by God. In America, it seems that they are determined by men. Okay, if you look at the founding fathers of America, right, they're not Christians, right? Most of them were Freemasons. Okay, they studied the Bible. Some of them ripped pages that they didn't think they would, they liked. So we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful how our arguments are based. If you quote some Marine, I mean, I can quote you, okay, people who I know who lived in Afghanistan, who lived in Iraq, who have families right now in Iraq. Yes, I did not see a Muslim go and blow himself up. Yes, it happened. But I did talk to people who their families were killed, okay, by American soldiers who thought, it's fun to take target practices at civilians running by. And you can find these videos on YouTube and so on and so forth. You can go and look at the prison abuses in Abu Ghraib, right? What kind of, Christian democracy is that to push that? What kind of Christian condones shooting, a holy book of that some people, hold holy, right? I did not hear of Muslims throwing a Bible in the toilet or shooting at it or anything like that, or burning a Bible. Okay, if you can provide some some proof again. Why? Because Muslims respect the Bible. Okay, they respect
Actually, I just read an article about that, and it is posted in our forum, truthbrigade.radio.com, that was just going on all week, actually. But that was the 5 minutes, so we're Bob Doe will rebut, and then we'll take callers. Okay, Bob Doe. You're on.
I'm kind of upset that he would say that our soldiers, and I know many of them, we work for them, and are using Muslims for target practice. Muslim people, I have a hard time believing that. The stories coming back are just one after the next of women being stoned. I mean, kids using, being used as, human bombs. I mean, just look at the Palestinians and what they're doing with these kids. Every time one of them commits suicide, they get $25,000. The family does. Then they make a big glorify it by putting the kid's photo there with a wreath around it and just in words and basically the kid gets knighted. And those are facts. That's reality, sir. That's the reality of that religion. I'm not just quoting. These are facts. They're reality. You can go anywhere and find this. You can find it anywhere, in books, on the magazine articles. This is coming by reporters coming back from there. It's coming by from Marines, word of mouth. This is actually happening. And for you to come and say that our American soldiers are going over and using these people as target practice like the Japanese did with the Chinese is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, you're saying you're getting off into lunacy. You really are. And why are if you feel so strongly, why are you living in Canada? Why are you coming, probably making your way down here or something, or helping those people up there come down here? Why aren't you living in Iraq or living in Afghanistan? You aren't. You don't think they're so great. I don't think you'd even be alive. I think they'd probably kill you. Even if you I don't know, but why aren't you living there? You should, if you're defending this, you should be living over there. And that's the whole reality of this. And you're good at quoting some things about in the Old Testament, and sure, and that's your right. But all in all, when you look at the big picture, Christianity has really embittered the world for the last, I won't say, I'd say the last 200-300 years, and we really do have a good life right now. And that's the reason we have a good life, and that's what I want to close with on this. And there's so much evidence about Muhammad, and that's the show topic tonight. We should probably stick to it. There's so much evidence about his going in. It's written. It's fact. It's him going in and massacring that tribe of Jews, of killing women and children, of cutting down their palm trees, of wiping out their water, of atrocities, and by his own admission, marrying taking on a 6-year-old wife. Well, I don't think any in any religion anywhere, even those polygamists or anything, they would even consider marrying a girl of 6. And you're saying, no, well, that's commonplace. It's coming on from a kid, and you asked me about proof. Well, it's in the Quran. if you go back to it's not an interpretation. I know it was first an oral interpretation, then it wasn't writing until years later by some scholars, but they had some real things to say about it until this, until I believe it was rewritten and rewritten again until they've modified some things and kind of sugar coated, but you're coming from the same kind of a soapbox as a lot of these guys are coming at America. You're basically saying death to America, and you're doing it in a nice way, a peaceful way, and your true colors come out behind the little sugar coated thing you're trying to portray in this nice guy, well educated, well rounded, a scholarly person. The death to America is behind what you're saying, and I can hear it, I can feel it tonight, and you're not going to hide that. Every time you lash out with your vitriol, and you could hear it come out. Oh, it's American colonialism. They're using Arabs as target practice. We're only defending ourselves, and all this. I can't believe it. And you look at over in Saudi Arabia and what we've given the Muslims since we've given them roadways, we've given them swimming pools, we've given them telephone lines, we've given them satellite, we've given them a way of life that is 1,000 times better than what they had. And how do they thank us? By blowing us up, by shooting at us, by killing us. We put the means. Sure, we put our oil companies there and our oil things, but we gave back to them. How you can say we were colonialists and imperialists, sir? We would have just killed them all. We have the means. We could kill every damn last Arab or Muslim on this planet tomorrow. We have the means to do that. Do we? No. We gave to them. We even give them their own sovereignty. They even come back and buy some of our companies and own some of our ports and other things. We don't need to do that. We don't
All
even
right.
need to.
I'm sorry, Bob Doe.
Right.
I don't want to keep going over the time because I'm not sure how long we have, Jibreel, so I want to make sure we get to the callers, and there are quite a few. So because of the feedback, I'm going to have to keep, Jibreel muted when he's not talking. So, Jibreel, I would like to know how much time do we have you on the line?
Right.
So
can I ask you one thing, though?
How much time the callers have?
Can I ask you one thing?
Of course.
Please? Yeah, because he started, right, wouldn't it be fair that I finish? Then he would have an advantage. I would have to finish, right? So I would have to have another 5 minutes and then take the callers.
Well, okay, we did talk with you earlier, and so, okay, I want to, how much time do we have with you so I can properly...
Yeah, I can still stay for the calls, for a little bit. I can stay for the calls for some time. So if you give me 5 minutes, and then take the calls, I would really appreciate it.
And then we'll give each caller 5 minutes. Is that fair?
So no, I'm supposed to get 5 minutes, and then we can go to the calls, right? Because Bob started.
Okay, but do we give the callers 5 minutes? Is that fair?
Well, the callers can have more than 5 minutes.
Okay, so you're not on a schedule then?
Well, I said till 12, because we started a bit late. We started about 9:45. I can stay, that extra time.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, let's give you a couple minutes here, and then we'll go into callers.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, going back to to our discussions. I mean, everyone's quoting things. Again, we're talking here about the true Muhammad. This was the topic, right? So the true Muhammad was not brought into light except from the quotations that I gave, what the Quran teaches, what is Sunnah is example taught, right? I gave quotes about, examples, to the obedience of parents and the kindness towards parents, removing things from the street, okay, being merciful towards the young and towards the old, and at the same time, of course, being strong in the face of injustice. I don't say death to America. I don't think any of our listeners heard that from my voice. I don't say death to America. I say death to lies and injustice. That's what I say death to. And I think every Christian and Muslim and whoever believes and stands for these, common principles should say the same thing. And I say death, to injustice and lies. This is what really kills the world. If we would, get a better understanding of each other, in discussions such as this right now, I think, we would get a longer way than just, starting saying, I believe, I think, right? Because, I mean, that's what we keep hearing Bob saying. I think, I believe, I think, these people are so-and-so, these people are so-and-so, right? He talked about, who goes into which. I mean, you telling me that I should live in Iraq. I came to Canada before I became Muslim. Okay, I became Muslim in Canada. Okay, if you believe in God's divine decree, right? That's what God guided me to Canada. And this is where I became a citizen, and after that I became a Muslim, right? So it's not that I chose to come here and I wouldn't, and they would not let me in Iraq first of all, right? So I love Canada. I love, I think it's an amazing country. It has very good principles, principles that Islam agrees to, a lot of them. So, principles that sometimes Islam does not agree to, such as interest, in pornography and, casinos and gambling, alcohol, some of these things, right? Premarital sex and, things that are agreed by, by the majority and accepted now by, consensus in our societies. Islam would not agree with those, but of course it agrees with, standing for truth, with the Ten Commandments, right? Thou shalt not kill, especially the first commandment, that you should not have any, God except, God. These, Islam will stand for those. I mean, you kind of went and talked about the massacre of I have to correct you, is the tribe is called Banu Qurayza, okay? These are the tribe that was guarding the back of Medina, that the Prophet Muhammad had a treaty with them, and they betrayed him, and at the Battle of the Trench, of Khandaq, they called the polytheists from Mecca to attack. When they failed, they withdrew. Prophet Muhammad, went after them, of course, because they violated the treaty. They got captured, and they asked for a settlement. The settlement was to bring an ex-Jewish person, and he said, based on the Old Testament rule, betrayal is death, right? So this is what they asked for, a settlement from one of their own, who was, one of their own, and they said, we want to be judged according to the law. And the settlement was that, according to Old Testament, betrayal is death. Okay, according to the Treaty of Medina, they were supposed to defend the back, and they betrayed Prophet Muhammad. He only killed, the fighters. Okay, not women and children, as our beautiful verse in Numbers 31st. Only the fighters. Okay, the people over puberty who were engaged in fighting. The women and the children were spared. Okay. So you talk, then again, you keep attacking Aisha about the 9-year-old. I mean, it was, again, a marriage. Girls today are going and having sex, around 9 years, and of course.
Not my girl, sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. You know what? I encourage you. I applaud you for that. That's very good, right? But, I mean, you look at, at Christianity from that, aspect. I mean, you look at the Catholic, church scandals, right? I mean, thousands of cases of altar boys being raped, right? So, I mean, you would see, these were the people who carried the torch of Christianity for, till the 6th century, right? I mean, 16th century. So you would, you really, try to see where is that, Christian faith into them. I have to correct you again based on the Quran. Quran was oral tradition, but it was also both recorded in Hadith, Bukhari, and Muslim, that it was written at the same time that it was dictated, right? So it's oral and written in parallel. There was no such thing as written later, right? There was compilations of the Quran putting in one book. Okay, there's no modifications or sugarcoating. I challenge you to bring any proof against that. And, again, we have to, be careful. You say, damn Muslims and Arabs, I mean, what did they, you guys brought pools into their country and satellite. What did they give you? Well, the Muslims gave the numbers, first of all, of that the West has today, okay, the Arabic numbers that we're using, you and I are using, okay, for everything almost. And the Muslims gave, the Almanac of Medicine, which was the standard book till the 17th century for medicine. They were the revolutionaries of knowledge, okay, and philosophy and throughout, okay, that Christians have built upon. St. Thomas Aquinas presented and helped the Renaissance based on a paper presented from Ibn Sina, from one of the philosophers of Muslims. So, I mean, we have to at least acknowledge the contribution that the Muslim has brought to the West. And then we have an objective person would say, now, how come, so they're so-called backwards now? How come right now? What happened? What happened after this time? So someone would go and look into history, go to read to the Quran, read to the Prophet's biography, and then they would realize what happened. Okay, I don't have to tell them right now and to argue back and forth, and would attack me and say that I'm being recruited by someone. Who am I being recruited? I'm not communist. I'm not with any party. I stand only for this truth, and God, the Almighty, is witness. to the truth. I don't want to kill anyone or do anything like that. Okay, I want to live as a proper citizen. Of course, I'll stand up for any injustice anytime. Okay, anyone I see on the street that's being unjustly dealt with, okay, that's what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us, to stand for against injustice. So this is, we have to really make sure. But I'd like to thank again for giving me this opportunity, and I really encourage everyone to go and research for themselves and really find out that whether what Bob's views are on Islam are true or not, or my views on Islam are true or not. Don't believe me, okay? Again, because then how would I be better than Bob if I would just say, well, Gabriel says this and this, so you should believe it. Go and research for yourself, and then you'll see.
Are you ready for caller?
We are ready.
Okay, and because of the sound thing, I am going to have you muted when I'm talking, so I apologize for that. Our first caller tonight is Olivia, our wonderful nurse and healer, and I can't wait to share good news with you, but it'll be later. I'm going to make you wait longer.
Oh, what a shame, because I'm looking forward to hearing it, but okay. So, first of all, I want to say that Paul is already clapping for me. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. I'm going to have to not read your comments because you've been so funny tonight that if I read anything you're putting up there, it's going to make me laugh. So, basically, so I just want to respond to some of the things Jibreel has been talking about. First of all, he said we should be thankful for what Islam has brought to the Western world, and I'm a very, very open-minded person. I have Muslim friends, I have Arab friends. I make it a point to love everybody and to not judge the whole based on the few, which I think is very important, especially when you're discussing Islam, because what most people in the West know about Islam is terrorism, right? So I don't want to believe that is is what all Muslims want, and I know that that's not what all Muslims want, because as I said, I have Muslim friends. However, to say we have to be thankful for what Islam has brought to the Western world, I wish he would have named one thing, because I would sit here and praise whatever Islam has given to the Western world if I knew it, and maybe I'm just mistaken. Maybe there's a lot that they've given, but to be honest, I can't name a thing. And
do you want to ask that as I'm sorry, do you want to ask that as a question, or do you want to continue to comment?
Well, I want to make a couple more comments, and then if he wants
I wish I could
reply.
leave his line open. I apologize, and I experimented a couple times, and the feedback kept coming back. So I just have to, so I apologize for interrupting, but yeah, so just let me know when you want to ask questions, and then I'll unmute so we can hear you.
Okay, so I really appreciated Bob Doe's comment that Gabriel, grew up okay, Romania is not the United States, but it's also not the Middle East, which is where I live. I do live in the Middle East, so I have been personally experiencing, as Bob Doe pointed out, the what's going on over here. So when Bob Doe made that comment earlier about the person that was at the wedding, he said Nurse Olivia was at a wedding and experiencing, well, that is something that happened. I was sitting at a wedding, and I actually, as soon as I got home from the wedding, I came on a show, so I'm sure Christy remembers this very well. I was at a wedding, and the girl sitting right next to me, a friend of mine, received a phone call, and it was from her brother, and he had just run out of the school that he was learning in because somebody, an Islamic terrorist, had walked in there and started shooting everybody, and a number of young boys died from that, and they were afraid, and we were right around the corner, and they were afraid that a guy with a bomb belt was going to run in and blow himself up at the wedding hall. So I've experienced these things multiple times because the country that I live in is Israel, and it's a very, very small country. It's smaller than New Jersey, and the population here is less than that of Philadelphia. So if that gives you any kind of an idea, a lot of people think Israel must be pretty big because it's in the news all the time, but it's very tiny. And so everybody here has been personally affected in one way or another. If you don't know somebody personally who's been killed here, then you know somebody who knows somebody who's been killed here. And my life and my path has been rerouted multiple times because of terror attacks. But still, I firmly, I mean, I've been criticized for not defending Arabs and Islam, but just trying to awaken people to the fact that they shouldn't believe the political lies and what the media wants us to believe in the Western world, that all Iraqis must be evil and want to kill you, so go get them first, you know. I mean, the truth is Iraq never killed a single American until being invaded by Americans, and most Americans aren't awake enough to be able to figure that one out for themselves. But I really want to say a couple of things in response to what Gabriel was saying. First of all, he said that female genital mutilation, which is female circumcision, that it occurs in African country, that in African countries, and that it's never been a practice of Islam. But the truth is that those African countries that are practicing, the people practicing female genital mutilation are Muslims. And just a few days ago, another girl here in my part of the world was rushed to the emergency room in critical condition, and I'm not sure what happened. I know her condition improved after she was in the intensive care unit, but on a regular basis here in Israel, Islamic girls, young girls, are hospitalized because they've been mutilated by their own family members. So to say that this is not something that's forced upon girls, well, it's absolutely forced upon girls in the Islam world, in the Muslim world. And I think Bob Doe's point is very valid, that you haven't lived in the part of the world that I live in, and so how would you even really know? I've just had more exposure to these things maybe than you have, because you learned about it in university, as Bob Doe put it, and through textbooks. And if you haven't lived in the culture, I can tell you that you are not surrounded by it 24 hours a day like I am. And I'm not even Muslim, and I'm not an Arab, so I'm not part of the culture, but I'm surrounded by it, so I have a lot more exposure to it than you do, and I hear news that you're not getting here in the United States. And also I wanted to make a point that female genital mutilation is not like Jewish circumcision, because I'm also a nurse, and Jews are not the only ones to perform, and we're the only ones maybe that perform the circumcision on the 8th day, and it's a religious ceremony. But in the hospitals in the United States, we used to circumcise the baby boys the day after they were born. It's something that is done in the Western world and here in the Middle East also. If a person's not doing it as a religious ceremony, then it's commonly done to all boys in the hospital. And that part of the foreskin of the boy is numb, and they don't feel it. The baby will cry when you first undress them because they're cold, but then immediately after you circumcise them and wrap them up, they stop crying and they're fine. So to compare mutilating a little girl who's screaming to circumcising a little boy, which is common practice even in the United States, throughout the United States, there's no comparison. So I just thought, I have personal experience with that, and I wanted to share. And one more point I'd like to make, and that is that in the Quran, it does give permission for people to have sex with animals, and also it teaches men how to beat their wives. And I have seen a video multiple times of an Egyptian cleric, a Muslim cleric in Egypt, who was on Egyptian television, and he held up a rod, and he was telling the men, you're not beating your wives appropriately. You're not allowed to use anything thicker than this according to the Quran. And then he quoted the Quran and said that if you're not beating your wife, then you're not being a proper husband, because the Quran instructs men that if they're not beating their wives, they're not being a husband according to Muhammad or according to Islam. So I wanted to point that out. And there is an organization here in Israel, the Jewish organization that rescues women who are trapped in abusive relationships with Islamic men. And that's, I mean, they keep themselves busy doing that 24 hours a day. And these women talk about how they were prisoners. They're terrified, and they know that if anybody finds out where they are, that they're dead. So they have to hide and change their identities completely. And you know, who amongst us hasn't heard that if somebody converts from Islam to Christianity, doing the opposite of what you did, Gabriel, then very often their own family members put them to death, and so they're not allowed to let anybody know. Oh, also I wanted to say that if a girl loses her virginity before marriage or has sex outside of her marriage, then it's considered to be a shame to her family. She's brought dishonor. That's what they say. She's brought dishonor to to the family. If a girl has been raped, she needs witnesses to claim that it was rape and that it was not an act that she voluntarily committed. So in Islamic countries, under Islamic law, very common, and Gabriel, you cannot refute this because it's even made the mainstream media in the United States a few times. There are women who have been put to death, stoned to death by the very men that raped them and their own brothers and fathers, which happens over here in my part of the world frequently, that these girls are killed by their own family members because that's part of Islamic law. And even the courts, if they can't bring at least two men to say she was raped, and nobody's going to come forward and say that because the only witnesses that were there were raping her. So the courts actually decree, according to the Quran and Islamic law, that she must be put to death. And then they stone her to death. So Gabriel, I would love to hear you defend that because there's no way in my mind that anyone can justify that whatsoever. So Christy, could you please open the line and ask Gabriel to defend the killing of women who have been raped, even according to the courts, their own courts?
Okay, I'm going to bring him on right now, Olivia, and then I'll see. We have the feedback again, so we'll do our best. And then if I have to mute you, Olivia, while he responds, then you know, sorry.
Okay. Can I speak without being interrupted, or is she gonna interrupt me if I make something she wants to rebuttal? Can I speak and explain those points that she made, or is it okay now?
Yes, this is your turn.
Okay. All right. So you start talking about a few things actually, and we talked about the killings, and that you're from Israel and you have a better understanding of things than me. But I have family who lives in Israel as well. Okay, I have actually my dad's wife, his grandma lives in Israel, and they go and visit. My dad's wife goes and visits there. So she tells me a different thing. It's a very good life. There. Of course, there's areas which are affected, but you have to understand what happened. I mean, Israel invaded a land called Palestine, right, before. So now it's not even on the map. So you would assume that people who are there who got kicked out of the houses, and you cannot refute this. I mean, Muslims, non-Muslims, historians, anyone would know what happened in the 50s, right, with the invasion, right? This is not something that I think Olivia or Names you can refute. So I mean, let me ask you, what's the difference between a suicide bombing versus air raids and bombs that are sent? I mean, you're talking about heavy bombs, and artillery, and Israel just acquiring some of the best fighting jets from the United States. I mean, top-notch, fighting jets. When Israelis really, I mean, when the Palestinians really have rocks and homemade bombs to defend themselves. So what's the difference between these guys and going? And that's the only way. I mean, I'm not saying I condone here suicide bombing, right? Islam talks about the person who commits suicide, right, in the Quran. That's not allowed. But you're talking here about a person who's defending their country, and they have no weapons, no way even to match the artillery that Israel has. And you're talking about someone who takes up and goes and sacrifices themselves, okay? Not even suicide, right? I mean, the kamikaze of Japan, even till today, are considered heroes for sacrificing their lives in attacking Pearl Harbor, right? The people in Vietnam, right, during the War of Vietnam. So many suicide bombings started from there. It did not start with the Muslims, okay? These started from later, before that. These people are still considered heroes. Why? They defended their countries. They did not have the ammunitions. They were able to fight against, the Americans, and so they used their bodies as bombs, right? So, we have to really put in perspective what are we talking about here, right? Some of the bombs that Israel sends to Palestine. I have friends who live in Gaza, and you say everyone knows some people who were killed or affected by suicide bombers. And look at the flip here and the appeal to emotion, right? That of course the Muslims are the bad people. Who invaded the country? Who came and attacked these people? These people are defending themselves. How come we have to start shedding tears for a couple of Israelis losing their lives, but the thousands, you're talking about thousands, millions of people have died at the hands of the atrocities of Israel and the United States? No one mourns them. Do you know their names? Do you know any Ahmed or Muhammad who died, who was melted in front of his parents and mom and dad and brothers? What do you think his brothers will think? What kind of, I study psychology, from a psychological impact, the trauma that person suffers, who is an illiterate, probably not even know what the Quran is, what do you think he'll do when he'll know who killed him and what are the only options? Of course, people will come and pray on them and say, come on, go suicide. Come on, you'll save, your brother's honor. What do you think they'll do? But what is the reason that this person will do? We have to really question, okay? What did Islam bring to the world? I just told you it brought the numbers, the Arabic numbers, okay, which you use, okay, to dial even on your phone, okay? You could have not joined this conversation if you could have not dialed those 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? These are Arabic numbers, I repeat, not Greek, not Roman, they are Arabic. We use it, the whole world uses it, the Muslims invented it, okay? That's why before you used to use pages to write the number 1,000, okay, in the Latin language. Okay, now you use a line, less than a quarter of a line to write numbers in the 1,000. This is what Muslim brought. They brought the medicine. The first hospitals were within Iraq. You're talking about a lot of contributions. Go and type Muslim heritage on Google and find thousands of contributions of Muslims they have brought to the world. Muslim heritage, contributions of Muslims to the West. Everyone can go and Google it and see. Okay, this is not me inventing it. I can name you. You said name me one. I named you. I can name you 1,000. Okay, you go and check them on the website. I name you 2 very important ones. One, numbers. Come on. Let's think of a day where we could live without the Arabic numbers. If Olivia can give me a day that we can live without the Arabic numbers, and all the computer systems that are based on the binary system and on the Arabic numbers, come on, let's just give it a break. That we should say, and I want Olivia to go on the phone now and say, thank God that Muslims, have done that, right? Because I've just proven her a very huge and significant contributions that the Muslims have brought to the West. Okay.
Gabriel,
so, yes.
Oh, well, I don't want you to accuse me of interrupting. So do you want me to address you, or should I wait?
No, you can wait till I finish. Okay. The Quran teaches sex with animals. That nowhere is there such a verse in the Quran. I challenge you to quote me one verse that teaches sex with animals. Okay, sex with animals, it is forbidden. Okay, only the West has brought these kind of perversities into, right? These zoophilia, and has been brought here. Okay, please quote me one verse in the Quran or the Prophet saying that he condones sex with animals, okay, and teaches how to beat your wives. The Quran does not teach how to beat your wives, okay? It does not talk about it. Go read Surah 4, verse 34, and you will see what it means, okay? Okay? It talks about a whole different, we're not talking here about, wife abuse and something like that. Okay? If we were to discuss, this would be a whole different topic that we could spend 3 hours to give you the meaning of that verse, what the Prophet said about wife beating. It's not even wife beating, okay? There's no such thing as wife beating, okay? We have to be very, very careful as to what. You have to go and research this topic. This discussion would require a new show that we would sit here and talk about, the issue of, verse of Surah Nisa, verse 34, okay? So we have to be, and then again, you look at, the issue of female abuse and of women abuse and wife abuse. It's rampant in Western countries.
Can you answer or elaborate what is wife beating? What don't we understand?
That's what I just told you. It would require us for go now into a different tangent that would require us 2 hours. Do you understand? Like, how can you give, how can you deduce a physics law in 2 minutes, right? We're talking about something.
So hitting your wife is okay, though. Then.
No. Hitting.
Short answer.
Hold on. Is it okay to hit your child? Let me ask you that.
I don't think violence is ever okay.
No, not violence. We're not talking about violence. No. There's a difference between violence and hitting someone, okay? There's a difference between that. Is it okay to hit your child if he does something bad?
Spanking. We talked to someone else on the show that...
Okay, can you spank your child if he does something bad? Can you spank your child if he does something bad?
Well, there's a fine line. I don't believe everybody knows what spanking is, and it easily progresses to abuse.
Exactly, and that's why if you read this, the verses,
I don't
right?
condone touching anyone.
Okay. But there's a fine line, as you said, between spanking and beating someone, okay? There's no such thing. The Prophet said, I forbid you to hit the faces. You cannot hit the faces, okay? And he also said, how do you beat your wives and then you go and lay with them at night, okay? So he told people very strictly about this. So if we are to go into this discussion, as I said, let's stick to the topic. It would take us a long, long time, okay? So what I'm saying, Islam does not tell you to beat your wife, nor does it tell you to have sex with animals, okay? This is something, very, very important. Then again, we talked about losing the virginity, right, and dishonoring the family. Of course, it's a dishonor for a family if a woman goes and sleeps around with, guys here and there. I mean, look at our society. It's plagued with premarital sex, right, which, mind you, Christian democracy should not allow, right, because it's based on Christianity. Christianity does not condone sex before marriage, but it's plagued. Our societies are plagued and has destroyed our society, right? People, I mean, look at the divorce rate in the United States. I mean, it's rampant. It's rampant, okay? Rape in Islam, okay, no witnesses. Well, the only time you bring witnesses, 4 witnesses for adultery, if a woman commits adultery. If a woman is raped, okay, there's other means of finding that out, okay, whether she was raped or not. And especially with today, with forensics and stuff like that, any proper Islamic court, okay, Islam does not tell you to stay in the, 4th century or 5th century, okay? Any proper Islamic court would accept, okay, a proper testimony based on these type of evidence or forensic evidence. So the issue of witnesses, the 4 witnesses, not 2. It is for adultery, okay? At the time of Prophet Muhammad, okay, it was for adultery. It will be condoned based on adultery, okay? So no one comes and someone who has witnessed the act. It's so stringent because the punishment is also so stringent that only 4 people, which is so hard, have actually witnessed the act happening. That's when they can do that. If these people, mind you, are not any people who this whole society agrees that they're righteous people, they pray all the time, they're not people who have lied in their lives, they're not people who have cheated, okay? So, I mean, we have to keep that in consideration.
Look, who's going to rape someone with 4 witnesses? I mean, I think, and who's going to commit adultery with 4 witnesses?
That's what I'm saying. So listen. No. It's not the issue is that
if a woman is raped and there isn't 4 witnesses, then she wasn't raped.
No, then there's other means of determining whether she was raped or not, right? A doctor can go and give the verdict, right?
So this is not.
Who said you kill her? No one kills her. The person who raped, okay, in Islam, the person who committed the rape will be the one who will be punished. Who said? Give me a proof from Islam that says that you kill her. Okay? Don't go into, listen, we were talking here today about Prophet Muhammad and what Islam teaches, not about what Joe Schmo and so on and so forth teaches in attacked by America, Iraq or something, okay? We're talking about what did Prophet Muhammad teach, okay? He did not teach kill the woman who gets raped, okay? He taught different things, okay? So we have to be very careful of how we mix things and we, make it a little, soup here and put different ingredients and then we make it as, sounding something nice. We have to make sure that we separate things and we take one thing at a time and we look exactly at what is the proof, okay? There's no such thing that if a woman gets raped, she gets killed, okay? The person, if he gets caught that he's raping and there's proof against him that he raped, that's when that person will be punished, not the woman. There's no such thing as the woman being punished, okay? There's no such thing. So we have to be very careful. You say you cannot refute. I can refute. Of course I can refute it. It's not Islamic law. There you go. There's refutation. Bring me your proof.
You live in Canada.
Listen. I have people who are being killed day and night in Israel, okay, near Israel, and in Iraq, and in many places in Muslim worlds, okay, by Americans, okay? They're being melted, okay? One of the cases that we're dealing with the mosque, right, that because of all the chemicals that have been used in the bombs, okay, the girl was born without an abdominal wall. Her whole stomach is bulging out, okay, and her parents are crying, crying for help, okay? What did this person suffer? Who? Did she invade America? Did she go and kill people? Why is she suffering? Because of these people calling for Christian democracy. Who is the atrocity? Who is the invader?
Raphael, you know what? I mean, I'm sorry. Gabriel, I totally agree with you that the American invasion, not just in Iraq but around the world, is completely evil and uncalled for. I totally agree with you. But what does that have to do with the subject? Absolutely nothing. Just all the stuff you said about Palestine and the Jews. You know what? That's not what this show
Listen,
is
I didn't
about.
bring it up. You brought it up. I did not bring anything about Palestine or Iraq. Bob and yourself brought it up. So please, every person who's listening to the show is a witness. I did not bring anything. I've been calling for people to bring proof from Prophet Muhammad and from the Quran. You guys quoted having sex with animals from the Quran. There's no such thing in the Quran. You got quoted so many things. No one brings any proof. Everyone just quotes, and says, and you're just inciting more hate on people who have no clue about Islam, and they just look up to people and say, well, we believe these people, they must know what they're talking about. Oh, he must know what he's talking about. He's been, a communist, and, he studies Islam for so long time. He must know what he's talking about. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a university student who's been brainwashed and is being recruited. This university student who hasn't been brainwashed, okay, is giving proof, and he's calling people to give proof. Okay, so please give proof. I did not bring any Israel issue. I did not bring any Iraq issue. I was only calling the teachings of Prophet Muhammad. There's no such thing as female mutilation and genital circumcisions that people are saying that is condoned. Okay, if there is anyone who has ever made any good case against Islam based on that, there's only one hadith, prophetic narrations, that talks about that, and it's not authentic. And he did not condone it. Someone asked him, "What should we do about this?" He said, "If you ever do it, just cut a little bit and don't damage." Okay, so there's no such thing in Islam, and that narration itself is not authentic. So please,
Just
there's
cut a
no
little bit. Just cut a little bit of the woman. Is that what you're talking about?
of the female circumcision of the clitoris. Okay, the part.
So
It's not
you're
even the clitoris.
agreeing. So you're
No,
agreeing
no, no,
now that
no.
that's
Don't
part of
listen.
Islam.
Don't twist my vote. Don't twist what I said. I said it's an unauthentic. And I said people who have any argument against Islam will base it upon that. Okay, the Prophet never said it's my sunnah or my practice to circumcise female, but he did say it is my sunnah and the sunnah of those before me, my practice, the practice of Abraham, to circumcise the males after 7 days of birth. It's a religious practice, okay, but not of the female. There's no such thing in the affirmative in Islam that says circumcise the female. It does not exist. It never existed. Islam does not condone female genital mutilation. It does not. Those countries that I mentioned in North America, okay, there's many Christians there. Christians have been doing it. It's a cultural thing. It happened before Islam came. That's why that person from that unauthentic hadith was asking the Prophet about it, okay? Because it was there before it. Islam did not come and start it, okay? So please, we have to be careful about what we do, okay?
Well, let's, Bob Doe's been really patient again, so maybe he has some insight to that as well.
Well, patient, yeah, I was eating, thank you. So, but yeah, I've heard this all before. It's the same rhetoric he's espousing, and I've heard it. The Becker brothers can write this script very well. You've read that, and I want to say something about what Nurse Olivia was saying too. That it's not. You're right. You're correct, and it's not all Muslims that want to kill. But if you take even 20% of them, you've got 200 million of them who do, who still believe in the first sword of Allah, who still believe all the Christians and Jews. That's their destiny on this planet, is to wipe us out. And that's enough for me. I mean, 200 million people on this planet is enough for me to ring the alarm bell. And I think and very perceptive by saying that Iraq is mostly Sunni, which they're more peaceful Muslims there, and that the hardcore the hardcore Muslims, the ones who are the followers of Muhammad. They're in Iran, and even Bush himself, said he admitted he made a mistake as he's leaving the presidency. That sort of in a roundabout way, he admitted that Iraq was a mistake. So, and the handling of it, the invasion of Iraq, I still believe, was a mistake. I'm not saying anything against our men and women. They're fine soldiers who went in there. They should be proud of what they did. They should come home and hold their chest up high, and be congratulated and be given respect. They should be given health care. Our soldiers should be treated with the greatest respect and help and aid from our society right now. And I just wanted to say that even if I have some reservations about how we handled that, but I truly believe that Iran is a terrible threat in the Middle East. It's a terrible threat to Israel. It's those are the really hardcore ones, and the ones I'm talking about tonight. And we really should come together. And I see the left wing. They're starting they're starting up the marches now. It's starting up in down in South Bay. The schools, the colleges, the universities, they're drumming up the people again to get them, out there in the street marching against, Iran. And I mean, it's easy to say these things and to do these things when they're getting public aid and $4,000 every semester just to go to school. Where in the world can you get $4,000 if you're poor to go to college, and then to turn around and march against the very people who are protecting you? I think is just the most evil, sinister thing that I could possibly think of that any person could do to another. And and saying that there are no rape, no none of this mutilations and stoning of women going on, that is absolutely you show me some proof that this is not going on. That's not the reality of what's going on at all. That's there's what he's preaching was when he's there, and there's the reality of what's the real world, and that's the one here at Thruth Brigade radio, and that's why I come on. Is getting in is what is the truth? What is not our truth? Your truth? Reality is reality. A bomb goes off, a kid blows himself up in a wedding or whatever, or a church or whatever, that's reality, and I just don't want to hear. I don't want to hear coming up from the South, and these people have been allowed to get away with so much for so long, and I truly hope the American people, and so thank God for this forum tonight, and we're able to talk about it. I know there are people out there listening who can see the truth, and I know that. I could feel it. I could feel it in my, I can feel it in my heart right now. So thank you so much for letting me talk tonight.
If I could say something before Gabriel starts, because I have a feeling I won't be able to talk for a while after that, but I just want to say that Gabriel was saying, he's talking about hatred, and I think it's so ironic. He says that Bob Doe and I are bringing up all this hatred against people, but I think if you listen to the tone of voice that Bob Doe has had throughout the evening, and that I had when I was speaking, I don't hear any hatred. I mean, why did I even bring up the suicide bombings in Israel? I wasn't saying we are victims of Islam over here in Israel and that you should feel sorry for us. I said the opposite. I said, despite what's going on around me, despite the fact that my roof was hit by a rocket 2 years ago, that I make it a point to be friends with Muslims and Arabs. I think that's the opposite of hatred. Gabriel said it to try to, go on this thing about how we invaded this land, and I'm not saying that didn't happen, but that happened before I was born. So it would be like accusing Christie and Bob Doe of stealing land from the American Indians, okay? And I'm an American also, so you can say that's my fault as well. So not only did I steal the Palestinians' land, I stole a Native American's land, but you know what? I didn't do that. I wasn't even born when either one of them happened. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do something to help the Palestinians. That is not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that I have done as much as I could to sit here and say that even in the face of having to live day to day with the violence, which you have not had to do as a person who lives in Canada, that I still seek to remain balanced and to help people to understand that the answer is love and not going around killing the people that you think are going to kill you. And I respect very much what Bob Doe had to say about the percentage and the numbers, because that is a reality. I mean, the truth is that every single textbook in the Palestinian areas, Palestinian Authority, every school textbook tells them that they need to rise up and kill all the Jews. And I'm not making this up. I used to report on this. I worked in journalism in Israel. My articles used to make the front pages. And I reported on this because I feel like the children are being victimized by their own society, that they're being trained to grow up and be violent and be suicide bombers. And they have these little kids on television, official government Palestinian Authority television. It would be like turning on C-SPAN, basically, in the United States. And they stand there saying, little grade school children are saying, I'm going to grow up and blow myself up in Jerusalem. I'm going to be a suicide warrior in battle dress. A little girl. And they'll show little girls and boys talking this way. They had children of a woman, a female suicide bomber, talking about how their mother was in heaven because she had done because she'd committed suicide and killed Jews. So, you know, what that does is instead of making me hate Islam and Muslims and Arabs, I want to help them, actually. I want to help them to wake up and to get out of that system that they're being brainwashed in, because I think it's just as unfair for them as it is for the people that they're killing. But I think your tone of voice all evening, Gabriel, and this is really the last thing I want to say to you, I think that your tone all night is that you've been very defensive, and the only person that I've seen hatred from, to be honest, is you, because it's in your tone of voice. And it doesn't sound like you want to try to get along and come to some point where we can try to have some sort of agreement. It feels like you want to be on one side and you want us to be the enemy. That's just the feeling I get, and I could be wrong, but it feels like your mind is very much made up that you have an enemy and that I'm it. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you, Christy, for letting me speak. And Bob Doe, I think you did a marvelous job tonight.
Thank you, Olivia. God bless. Okay, well, let's go to the next caller.
Well, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Quite the interesting show. Good evening, Jibreel. Are you there?
I'm good. Thank you.
My comments are personal, and I have a couple of questions. I've noticed a couple of things. First, you haven't done real well in answering questions. You most often answered questions with questions. You also have asserted far more force than was necessary to get your point across here at TruthBrigadeRadio.com, where the ladies here are equal. And in the teachings that we follow, we are all submitted to the Father and therefore equal. No need for spanking. There is a lot of confusion about the teachings of all religions today, so I chastise your version of your religion just as I chastise all people of their version of their religion. The question I have, I find it interesting that you've taken a lot of teaching from your homeland, which I know in the country that's supposed to have originated this, the masters, the lifter up into the world of Christianity. I'm not impressed with what they're doing here with what I've learned in the book, and so I don't have a lot of history exactly how Romania interprets it or what the missionaries or the people there did or what you were raised to believe in the Christian religion. I hear a lot of love and compassion in your heart, my friend and my brother. But I also hear you tie together modern teachings of man that I know from experience and from deep study of history that isn't yet proven and very likely not correct. Even some of the people who helped put it in place have communicated with me along the way that it is not. So I ask you, sir, the question of all that being said is, are you fully comfortable with where your soul is going when you leave this rock on your current belief system?
Can I answer?
That was the question. Yes, please.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So am I comfortable with where my soul is going to leave once this, obviously once I die, right?
Your breathing cycle. Yeah, we're all gonna. I'll leave this rock by get off. So that juncture in your life, based on your current belief system, are you comfortable with where you're spending your eternity?
It's you see, Islam doesn't come based upon comfort, right? Because
No,
comfort.
I'm interested in your personal answer. Are you personally comfortable? I don't want to hear your storyline.
Yes, I'm 100%.
I'm asking you to answer a question, and it's a simple question.
Right. It's a rhetorical question.
Are you comfortable with where your existence is going to be when this breathing cycle's over? I don't think
I'm 100% comfortable. And I'm certain.
And then on what authority do you assert yourself so strongly on others? Why do you feel comfortable in not generally answering questions with an answer and addressing the question, and instead answer with another question? What I know to be a fallen system that works. If it's worked, you don't have to work it properly. All you got to do is try. Okay? I know it works, and it's fallen. The things you use to justify your positions based upon what the modern Christian religion has done is just like, it just putrefies me. It's like, how can you justify anything based on such fallen behavior? How can you justify anything's existence? Well, it's okay because this is happening over here. I mean, it's okay because the 9-year-old girls today are having sex. Well, it's just not okay for 9-year-old girls to have sex. They're not mature enough. Their heart's not strong enough to deal with what takes place when that copulation takes place. We have to understand. So at any rate, obviously, I put a lot of thought into this. The point is what I heard you do tonight is take a lot of modern teaching and justify it as a valid thing that's going to save your soul. And, sir, all I do is ask you to reconsider your position, be kinder to people, particularly here at Thruth Brigade Radio. We will give you your chance to be heard. That being said, I always have things to say, and this opens up a whole other realm to be considered. But we do have other callers, and we do have another guest. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. I want to thank you for joining us, Jibreel. And
thank you for having me.
And I wish you were correct about what I'm watching. People who proclaim what you proclaim, their actions do not match your words. And your words a lot pulled from the teachings that you received as a youth in your home country. And I also hear a lot of other things that I know for a fact are tripe. They're garbage. Some people eat tripe. I won't. I can't stand the smell of it. It's gut. It's really.
Okay, so can I answer?
Yeah, I'm going to pass the mic back because I'm giving it back to my host because I take up a lot of time.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. And just going back to my level of voice or tone of voice that people have attacked me upon, you have to understand that I am holding something very dear here to me, not just out of comfort, but out of full belief based on proper research and objective research. And I don't believe that I should be forced into answering a question as to yes or no. I don't think I've dodged any question so far. Anyone who's been dodging anything has been, I would say, the other side that never brought any proof about anything. I let you speak, and I would appreciate if you let me.
You just lied, so I'm going to let it be known that the record will reflect.
No, I did not lie. Okay, you're accusing me of lying, and that's not proper. Okay.
Please continue.
Excuse me, I did not cut you off. Okay, I didn't cut anything off. From the beginning, from the beginning, I got cut off, okay, which was very disrespectful. I did not
please continue.
I did not cut off. I did not express any hatred in my speech. Okay, the hatred came. Okay, please let me speak. Thank you very much. I came here to speak about the true Muhammad, peace be upon him, okay? And people went into each and every tangent, bringing up emotions and appeal to emotions, different arguments and tactics, and trying to put me in a corner. I, with a very, very sincere, and God knows best what's in hearts. I was accused of not being a true Muslim. I'm now being scolded by you to go back to Christianity teaching, and that I don't have any, and I'm not. Anyway, listen, with all due respect, I came here only to discuss. I don't have any hatred, okay, whatsoever for you or for Bob, or I really appreciate being given this chance to speak. I spoke. I think if I did raise my voice was only out of passion, not out of any kind of hatred, and make sure that everyone's listening, okay, to make my point. I only spoke giving proof, Okay, people have attacked me left and right, and have attacked Islam, have attacked my person, okay, which we're supposed not to. Supposed used to attack the argument, not the arguer. But anyway, I'm very 100% comfortable with where I am going. Okay, Thruth Brigade should really stand up for what is truth, and I really like the name. Okay, Thruth Brigade, and it should be that. And truth is only found through investigation and through what the teachings of that person who's called Muhammad taught. If you want to know the truth, you have to go back to that, not what other people have done, and so on and so forth. If I were to base my my belief on people, or if any Christian would be to base their belief on people, I'm sure people would not follow those beliefs, right? You have to go based on what did Jesus teach, what did Muhammad teach, what did these people teach. Of course, if I were to agree before to come and discuss about different political issues and different incidents that are taking place in the Middle East, you know what? I don't think I would have come, because of course only hatred.
May I interrupt you now, please? Because I want to support you on something, please. And let us just hold on to something at the point you just made. Because what I heard you just say, again, I feel compassion, and from what I can, I also feel that you are used to being badgered a lot, and I was just saying that it wouldn't have been necessary here at truthbrigade.radio.com, and I'm sorry that you felt the question was an attack, but you said something that I have to say, I would have to repeat, or say ditto, just to save time, that the people in America who proclaim to be Christians need to do the exact same thing. So if in fact, because as my host has said, I haven't had the time to read the whole book by myself. I've done quite a bit of study, and I've done quite a bit of looking and listening, and I felt from the very beginning all the 5 major teachings that the people today weren't following. So at any rate, if you're telling me and telling our listeners that your study of the original teachings of Muhammad are along the lines of what you said, and that the modern people aren't following them, and that's why they're having the war, well, then that just may be a bigger message that is coming out to all the peoples of the major religions, because you see, we have the same problem in the Christian religion, because today the modern world's practice of the Christian religion isn't anywhere near what the actual walking out, following the instruction in the book to receive it. So, and your point of that is what we do here at Truth Brigade Radio, and that's why you're here, and we do appreciate that you came. At the same time, you have to recognize, and I'm sure you do, that I don't feel the threat is as direct to me right now, or most Americans right now, but the threat of the destruction of freedom at the hands of what we're being told are Islamic Muslim terrorists. And again, your version of what a lifetime has shown me just doesn't match. And so forgive me for my resistance. It's something that I see with my own eyes. It's not something that I read in the book, and it's not something that I just figured out in the last 5 years. But you are appreciated, and if that is what the teaching is, and the people return to it, then we could get along. Hey, what could be wrong with that? Hey, babe?
All right. I agree with you that people should go and, study the proper teachings. And there's many Muslims, okay, in North America and many Muslim countries who don't agree with this significant, it's percentage of so-called Muslim terrorists, right? I don't like to bring in Muslim and terrorists all together. This is the, media issue that people has always joined the word Muslim with terrorists, okay, or fundamentalists. Okay, there's a difference, and there's many Muslims who understand the teachings of Prophet Muhammad in a very proper way. They practice it throughout the day, and there's been lots of systems where, living and coexisting together. It happened, it happened in Muslim Spain, it happened in Jerusalem, it happened in many places throughout history. And I say that as ignorance progressed throughout, history, and people have become more bitter towards each other, that's when, wars have started and different people have done.
I think it's a cycle that we have the capacity to break here, because one thing I noticed in our agreement, and we are in agreement, and on a what we can see level, everything we just said makes sense. But it is something that has been said before. It has been something that's been tried before, and history shows us it failed. There is something present here that no religion holds true to today, including the one that I will draw this information from or share with you quickly. You see, in the new teaching, in the new world, the real one that exists today, none need be slaves. So we have to come into view of that which we can't see and get out of that which we can. It is real. and it is available today. It's always been well for the last 2,000 years, but the ignorance that you speak of, and for whatever which one of the 5 major religions you want to follow, if you do get back to the deep teachings of it, and just do your best as a human to do them, and cause no victims, and be responsible for yourself, and fix things for yourself, and do things like best you're able, and learn and apply yourself, find the desire in your heart and process it, live a good life. Hey, you know what? You probably paid a very little karmic debt. You probably did okay, but there's a whole bigger game at foot here, and
there is, and I don't think any Christian would agree with what you're saying.
Well, no, and I don't think that anybody would agree with what we're saying.
Exactly.
Those of us at TruthBrigadeRadio.com are starting to wrap our heads around the whole concept of it. So, you see, the point is that we must quit fighting over those things. I mean, a mentor buddy of mine, and none of us are recognized by the system, but we've been tested. They at any rate, it's a whole other story, a whole other show that, Lord willing, we'll have an opportunity to do. But we were talking about the problems, and when I was explaining to him what I was trying to do, he looked at me and he said, "You just stuttered." And he said, "You just gotta pick the difficult words, don't you?" I said, "Well, to me, it really wasn't that bad. Very early, I realized that I've been asking the same question for 6,000 years, and nobody's got a viable answer. Maybe we're asking the wrong question." And I say it's that simple. If we really start asking ourselves the right questions, we will find answers that we need to do what we're doing. Tonight's show represented some awesome things, and that I had an opportunity to say what I just said, and I could go on. I really do want to recognize you, Gabriel, and my host, and our other guests, and our other callers. It's fascinating that we can reach an agreement on something that I'll say is absolute, and at the same time have so much disagreement on everything else. Maybe it's time we quit focusing on those, and they've disagreed on it for centuries. Why should we continue? I got to breathe.
Exactly. Well said, Russ.
A wonderful opportunity. I couldn't have done it without tonight. I mean, it's insane. It's crazy, but thank you. Thank you, Gabriel. Bob Doe.
Thank you.
It is nice to be able to converse.
I think it's very nice to converse. I think that's the solution to a lot of our problems in the world. Before we converse, we jump into other things.
Exactly. But you have to admit, Gabriel, I mean, we're kind of loose around here.
What's that? I was in the interface. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear as well. Hello?
Hey, I'm back.
Okay.
I knew for some reason I was going to get deleted because it happens every night, so I just literally happened to call in 59 seconds ago on my cell phone just to have a backup. So
wow.
I wasn't that far off. That's amazing. But yeah, we like to have conversations and get to know and understand and then work for solutions. We don't like to I'm right, you're wrong, and this is the way it is, and if you don't agree with me, you're less than. We're different. We're not.
I understand that.
It's nice to loosen up and get to know people and have conversations, and
yes.
and without that, how else will one another understand each other? And it's a lack of understanding and a lack of communication that causes these problems and misunderstandings in the world. I mean, we can agree, I'm sure, that the barbaric religions of the past, I'm talking about all organized religion. I mean, if you think of just the Christian religion alone, there's, 35,000 different? So that means there's at least 34,999 of them lying to us.
Right. But I would like to make a point here.
We don't follow men, we follow God, and I've always believed, and since I was a child, whether you call him Allah or Buddha or God or hey, even George. It's the Creator. It's Him.
Okay.
Why are we going to fight over the name or misunderstanding?
No one's fighting over the name. Right.
That's
I'd just like to make a point here.
Point there, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point here. No one's fighting over the name. That was just for scholarship and for clarity to from the beginning to just make that point that what the name of God is. So with the issue of looseness, I appreciate you being very open-minded and allowing me to speak, and I think that's what I did today. I think I presented the teachings of Prophet Muhammad and tried to debate some of the arguments that were put there without any proof. And I try to discern to make a big difference between what Prophet Muhammad taught and what Islam teaches and what the Quran teaches, and versus what some people do claiming that they follow that. And that's a fundamental difference. But I also like to point out that as Christians, and we Muslims believe in exclusive salvation, right? We believe Islam is the truth, and it's not one of the ways to God, but is the only way to God, is the way of all the prophets. We don't believe that Prophet Muhammad is the only way to God. All the other prophets which came before him and people who followed them are people who followed the truth. And we don't like to point and say that this person Muslim, the person who's a Muslim or the person who's a believer, according to the same in Christianity, if a person is a true Christian, is one who truly follows and implements the teachings of Jesus, right? And the same for a person of the Muslim faith is one who truly believes in Islam. We don't believe that Islam is a religion, a man-made religion. We believe that Islam is the Quran and the example of the Prophet, how he came and implemented the Quran. We believe he's the best man that ever existed. People would disagree, but I urge everyone to go and do the research. The only thing that I do agree that peaceful discussion will get us a lot farther than just shooting arguments at each other and shooting insults and attacks and what people have done over the past hundreds of years now. And with my experience on YouTube and trying to answer to people, people are just come and attack people and start insulting and swearing, and I don't think that's proper way of dealing with this. Prophet, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad didn't teach us to swear and to attack people in such a way. So we have to really be careful that we really mirror the teachings and not what people claim are the teachings or what people say. And that's why Thruth Brigade, right? It should be for truth. Truth is by itself exclusive. Truth is by itself. It doesn't need me or you or Bob or anyone. Truth is truth by itself. It's not how I present it that I make it look like truth, or how you present it or anyone presents it. Truth is truth by itself. It stands alone. And I think anyone who's sincere can look for the truth and can really sincerely dig into this and can take it farther than this discussion.
Excellent. Well, what do you think? We take another caller?
Let me see the time here. There's a difference of time here. It's 1 o'clock at night here. So if with your permission, if you really want me to, I can stay for another caller. But if you give me permission, I have to work in the morning. My kids, are getting very anxious. It's the end of the year, so they have a lot of extra.
How about that? Tell me how much time you have, and then we'll divvy it up between the remaining callers.
I have about 6 minutes.
Okay, 6 minutes. So that's 1 minute per caller. Okay, Texas, are you there?
Hello.
You have 1 minute with our guest before after hour.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Oh, 1 minute with our guest, of course, before after hours.
Okay. I have some verses from the Quran. I would like to read them. I've got a bunch, but I'll try to pick out some really good ones. And I would like to know how these verses figure into his contention of Islam as a peaceful religion. Okay, the first one. Kill the disbelievers wherever you find them. That's Quran 2:191. O you who believe, do not make friendship with Jews and Christians, for friends, they are friends of each other. and whoever amongst you takes them for a friend, then merely he is one of them. Shoot, I can't even read this. Hang on. Surely Allah does not guide the unjust people. That's from the Quran 5:51. Let's see, here's another one. Allah and His Messenger announced that it is acceptable to go back on promises, that's also interchangeable for treaties, and obligations with pagans, and make war on them wherever we find ourselves strong enough to do so. That's from the Quran 9:3. Okay. Murder them and treat them harshly. Quran 9:123. When you meet unbelievers in jihad, holy war, chop off their heads. And when you have brought them low, bind your prisoners rigorously, then set them free or take ransom from them until the war is ended. That's from the Quran 47:40. Strike off the heads of disbelievers. Quran 47:4. And I've got a whole bunch more of these verses from this religion of peace, and I'd like to get your guest thoughts on these. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. It is obvious that the person did not read these verses in the Quran, but got them off a website, and he's listed them obviously. And now we'll go one by one to talk about this. Okay, first verse was Surah 2, chapter 2, verse 191. It says in the context, okay, talking about fighting. Okay, it says fight in verse 190 before it, right? So let's go one verse before it. So verse 191, two verses after. Fight in the way of Allah those who fight you. Okay, those who fight you, but do not transgress. Okay, don't transgress. So there's a limit there. Okay, so fight those who fight you, but do not transgress. Indeed, Allah does not like transgressors. Now the verse that he quotes, and kill them wherever you overtake them, and expel them from whatever they have expelled you. So expel them from where they have expelled you. Okay, this is what happened with the polytheists who have expelled Prophet Muhammad from Mecca. Okay, so expel them from where they have expelled you. And fitna, or what's called, causing, discord, is worse than killing. And do not fight them at the Masjid al-Haram, the sacred mosque, until they fight you there. But if they fight you, then kill them. Such is the recompense of the disbelievers. Of course, what are you going to do when you fight? You're going to, play chess or something? Of course, if they fight you, you're going to fight them and kill them. Okay, you don't go and, tickle someone in a battle. You will fight them. And verse 192 says, and if they cease, if they stop, then indeed Allah is forgiving and merciful. And verse 193 says, fight them until there is no more fitna, there's no more, discord, and until they acknowledge, okay, the religion of Allah. But if they cease, okay, so if they stop, okay, even if they stop, then there is no aggression except against the oppressors. Okay, so look, please read the verses within the context. Okay, did not say to kill people wherever, whoever, anywhere. People who fight you, people who pushed you away from your homes, they expelled you from where you were expelled, then you expelled them from where they expelled you. Okay, and it says, I repeat, and if they cease, then indeed Allah is forgiving and merciful. I repeat again, if they cease, they stop, then there is no aggression except against the oppressor. So everyone can go easily, Surah 2, verse 190 to verse 193, and check it out for themselves. That the gentleman that came, he was misquoting. It's a very oft used, thing. I mean, and I would like to pose the same question. If Islam is such a religion that is obviously not of peace based on this verse, then what about the verses in Numbers and, the verses in the Old Testament, right? Both, which supposedly are from God, books from God, right? People fought against disbelievers. People fought establishing the rule of God in both, I repeat, Old Testament and the Quran. Prophets fought against people who were oppressors, but when peace was offered, they had to stop, right? That's normal. Everyone will agree. So there's no such thing as Islam is not a religion of peace, and Christianity is, right? Because I quoted you from the Old Testament, I quote you from the Quran. Again, I repeat, these people were fighting people who fought them. people who were oppressors, people who killed them, and it says, but if they stop, I repeat, if they stop, then indeed Allah is forgiving. But if they cease, then there's no aggression except against the oppressor. Let's go to the next verse. Very oft quoted. I'm gonna, kind of, I know there's not enough time, but Surah 9, which is Surah Tawbah, this is, called, supposedly they're called the verses of the sword that everyone always quotes. Okay, so it says that, basically, he talked about that you can dissolve your treaties, right? I don't know if that's the one that refers to, but anyway, it says in verse 3, and it is an announcement from Allah and His Messenger to the people of the day of the greater pilgrimage that Allah dissociates from the disbelievers, and so is His Messenger. So any kind of treaty that they have is dissociated. So if you repent, that is best for you, but if you turn away, then know that you will not cause failure to Allah, and give tidings to those disbelievers of a painful punishment. Okay? Accepted are those with whom you made a treaty among the polytheists, and they have not been deficient towards you in anything or supported anyone against you. So complete for them their treaty until their term has ended. Okay? Indeed, Allah loves those who are righteous. So again, the dissolving of the agreement was because the treaty of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was broken by the polytheists. Okay, so this verse is within that context. But it says for those who didn't break the treaty, it says then they're okay with you. Okay, so please let's read. That's verse 4. If you keep on going, and I'll go back to the verses which everyone quotes all the time about the killing, right? Right, it talks in verse 12, and if they break their oaths after the treaty and defame your religion, then fight the leaders of the disbelief, okay? So again, it goes back to saying that people broke their oath. That's why the fighting was ordained, okay? Of course, in verse 5, which everyone quotes, and when the sacred months have passed, then kill the polytheists wherever you find them, and capture them, and besiege them, and sit and wait for them in every place of ambush. But if they should repent, establish prayer, and give zakah, let them go their way. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. But look at the next verse. But if any one of the polytheists seeks your protection, okay, then grant him protection so that he may hear the words of Allah, then deliver him to his place of safety. So take him back to wherever he feels safe. That is because there are people who do not know, okay? So this is not that you go and kill everyone, attack everyone. There's certain fightings, the people who broke their treaties, the people who fought against them. If people who do not fight, right, when I started at the beginning, I quoted that, people who do not fight, you do not attack them, you do not fight them, you do not kill them. So you don't wait on ambush for people who did not fight you, again, right? So please read things in context, okay? So for all the other verses, I mean, I can, I don't know, do you want me to keep going?
Well,
Hello?
I just want to make sure all the callers get their 1 minute.
Right, so I mean, I could go here. He gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll repeat again. Surah 2, verse 191, Surah 5, verse 51, Surah 9, verse 3, Surah 9, verse 123, Surah 47, verse 40, Surah 47, verse 4, I believe. I hope I got them all right. People can go and check them out, see how easily they're taken out of context, and Islam was attacked as being a religion of not a religion of peace. And then again, I brought in the double standard that, I mean, if we were to keep to the same standard what some of the old prophets in the Old Testament have done based on God's commandment, then, I don't think Christianity would be a religion of peace either. But again, I explained at least 2 examples of what the gentleman put on, of the verses, and I showed in context that it does not mean to go kill Americans, to go kill anyone. Okay, there's certain context to certain things. I'm not apologizing. Yes, there is killing, there's fighting, but the same is in the Old Testament. The same is for the people who stand for truth and for justice, and that's all it is about. The abrogation of the covenant that was happening. It was between the polytheists of Mecca and Prophet Muhammad, and they broke that treaty, and that's when that abrogation happened. But he said if people who have still keep their treaty, then you keep your word with them. Okay, so again, we have to read everything in context. Thank you very much, and I think sorry I took, but yeah.
Okay, well, let's quickly go to our next caller then. Raphael, are you there?
I am here, waiting all night. I'm also in New York, and I should have been asleep by now. I haven't slept the whole week. Well, first of all, say from the beginning, I'm Jewish. And believe completely in Judaism. I can see from my perspective this fight between Islam and Christianity. I have followed for years, studied history when in university. I am very much aware that Islamic civilization 1,000 years ago made a bridge of knowledge all the way from India and China into the West, what we know as Arabic numerals brought from India, the concept of having a 0, 1, 2, 3, etc., and then a 1, 0 to make a 10, through Arab scholars into Spain, where the texts were translated from Arabic into Latin, and it got into the University of Europe. Great many things were brought back then from Islam to Europe. You mentioned that Thomas Aquinas said, learn from Avicenna. It's true, he learned from Avicenna's discussions with Maimonides, a Jewish scholar, and actually preferred the arguments of Maimonides. All of those are, very highly scholarly subjects. And I wasn't very pleased about, the bitterness in which ravage about Israel's invasion of Palestine. But we can make a whole other show about that part of history. As a Jew, I am not qualified to say what is true Islam or untrue Islam among the discussions among Muslims. I can tell, as I wrote in the interference here, that there are different schools of thought within Islam, and they are in high disagreement with one another. We all know today about the Sunnis and the Shiites, and I don't know if people know what the difference is, how many patriarchs are there, after Muhammad, and how do they interpret Islamic law. It's a strong difference. Within each of them, there are many different schools of thought, and there are schools of Islamic thought or Islamic law that are more benevolent, less violent. There are those who call for open violence and who, in the past and in the present, have, interpret jihad in the literal sense as a holy war that has to be waged against everybody who doesn't agree with them. It could be said the same thing in Christianity. There has been cases throughout history where people have rose under the sword of Christianity and kill anybody who did not agree with them, force people into conversions, etc. In today's world, and for what we are concerned today, America, the United States, the civilization of the West is in a fight, and there's a rising tide that has shifted from being political in the 60s and 70s, the pan-Arabist, the influence of the Soviets and in Arab nationalism, to today's main force of pan-Islamic unity, what they call, and the schools of Islam that preach for the expansion, making the West Islamic. For many of them, it is through the sword. For some of them, it is through convincing us to become, Islamic. Islam, as per se, I could see the positive part on it. That just like Christianity teaches people to understand there is one God in the world. I didn't come up with that. Maimonides came up with that 850 years ago. From my perspective, however, what's going on today is something to pay attention to, not just the things that basically hate propaganda brings up. Arabs are primitive. Well, there is some primitive element in many Arab groups. I couldn't come and say every single Arab is a criminal, or I shouldn't come and the first Muslim person I see in the street come and try to kill them or hurt them. I don't want, my own son to be attacked because he's a Jew, and there's plenty of things being said about Jews out there in the world. We'll begin from the following. You've been saying that the Prophet Muhammad Muhammad is only a prophet to the believers of Islam. To Christians, Jesus is the Son of God, and to the Muslims, Jesus is a prophet, and to me, he's neither. Those are differences, and we talk about talking and understanding. It will be very difficult for many people who are, strongly based on their belief to accept that a belief that contradicts them is acceptable somehow. I wish that we arrive to peace, to true peace, as opposite to what's going on in the world today. Politicians and diplomats signing documents that have no meaning, as they wish to continue war later on and benefit from it. I do not like I'm strongly opposed to the Western imposition today of a caricature, I would say, of a monolithic Islam as being the enemy of it all. But there are elements, there are schools of Islamic thought that are a real problem for the West, and when people call to kill us, we need to do what we can to protect ourselves, to defend ourselves. You cannot deny to me that there are Islamic preachers today, and they have been, caught on record, calling for the killing of the Jews. Maut al-Yahud, Maut al-Israel, and they also say Maut al-America. Kill the Jews, kill Israel, kill America. Those three slogans have been repeated. There are Muslim political leaders who call for those things openly. To me, that is no longer a question of what you say. What I say is a real threat, and against that I will rise to not only defend myself, to protect myself, and when it's a me and there is a you, I'll protect me and my own when that comes. When we learn that there is really a God, a one God, and we really need to accept that one God as the beginning of it all, maybe there is a basis for starting through peace. When you no longer will attack me for what I believe or try to steal what's mine because somehow you believe it's yours. Would you agree with that? I don't know if he's still there or he left.
Oh, you know what? I muted for the feedback. So, okay, here we go. I might have to end up muting you, Raphael, to keep the feedback down as well.
No,
Let's see
okay.
how it goes.
I agree with a lot of things that you said, Raphael, and there's been many elements of people, as I stated before, that have put certain ideologies up there. As you said, school of thoughts. We have to be careful with the use of school of thoughts. The school of thoughts are based on different issues, but yes, there are those elements of extremism, and I would say in every faith, and there are people who have called for the killing of Jews and killing of of Christians, but on the other side, there's many people who have called for the killing of many different people, right? There's people, Hitler, Christian, called for the killing of Jews, and so on and so forth. So again, the discussion of tonight was the true Muhammad. Okay, what were his teachings? Did he actually call for the killing of people? I gave, examples of what a Muslim should, act versus a non-Muslim citizen, right? That Prophet Muhammad would stand in the court of law, of God, of Allah, on the Day of Judgment against that person. He also said that whoever kills a non-Muslim, which is under my protection, will not smell the fragrance of paradise. Okay, so, I mean, we have to really make, again, distinction, what I said, versus what is the teaching of the faith, and what is the teaching that people have brought forth. People will disagree. People will have different interpretations of things, and this is just normal. There's no such thing as perfection in humans, okay, in terms of no mistake, no nothing, right? God is the only one who is the without any fault whatsoever. So we have to be careful, though, that we look at what is the actual teaching of God, right? That it reflects that perfection of God, and not, the teaching of humans. And I agree with you that many people have...
Hello? I think I lost him.
Uh-oh, I hope not.
Can't hear his voice suddenly. Hello?
Oh, yeah, he dropped.
He dropped. Maybe he'll have to call again.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, here, I know Olivia had a few more things to say, and sound guys, so well, hopefully you'll call back. We'll wait a few minutes, and if not, then we'll just take a break and go to after hours.
Okay. Olivia, you there?
I'm here. Hi, Raphael.
How are you doing? I don't know if you want to comment on what was been discussed on the show or in the interface. It's hard to follow both of them at the same time. People have come to ask who is guest 27, guest 25, guest 18. I kind of lost track also about what the Talmud is, what about the Talmud quotes, and somebody was talking about the Masons. I lost track of all these things. Really you need lots of information to understand things. So I was talking about understanding what Islam is as a faith, as a system. People ask about Judaism. Many have heard about Judaism from legends or from negative reviews, we will call it that way, from anti-Semitic propaganda. To understand what Judaism is will require, a series of lectures. People are asking about the Talmud. The Talmud is a book that is very complex. It's not a book, it's a series of books. The first part, was the discussion, the rabbinical discussions. The earliest part of the Talmud dates from before the beginning of Christianity. And the Talmud was completed by the beginning of the 5th century. So it takes a lot of time, lots of discussion to understand how the system works. It's a book about Jewish law and concepts. It's not the book of Jewish law, and many things could be taken out of context if you take, one little line there and mistranslate it and play around. Somebody was, Olivia, you're distracting me. Hold it.
I'm sorry. I didn't think you were reading the interface.
This is not a dating site. This is Thruth Brigade Radio. We are debating Muhammad. Well, where the heck is Bob Doe?
I don't know what happened to him either. Okay. You'll bring the, however, said, hold it.
Okay, he made it back.
I'm here.
Okay, he must have just got cut off.
Okay, Bob or?
Hello?
Who came back?
I did.
Hey, Bob.
I was
how are you?
Changing my socks. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard what I told this guy and what I said. There are different schools of thought. There are, Islam is a religion of so many millions of people that two Muslims won't agree about what their own religion is. But today's concern is what's going on in this complex world of these between the schools of thought of Islam and the tendencies that are calling for war, and they're calling for war openly, and they will call against the Jews first and against Israel. There are those who are calling directly against America and to try to take over America and make this into a Muslim country. There are those who want to take Europe. When things come to violence and to threat, is for us to stand up and protect ourselves, defend ourselves with the wisdom. The book of Proverbs says that you fight war with wisdom to know what the enemy is in that sense. If you go and attack anybody who looks Middle Eastern because 9/11 took place, for sure you will be attacking innocent people and doing a complete disservice to what is defending yourself. So ignorance won't bring a solution to anything.
I'm back.
You're
sorry,
there.
My phone got cut off for some reason.
Okay. I don't know.
But again, as I was saying, right, I agree with you on a lot of the things that you said. I do disagree that two Muslims would not know their religion.
They would know the religion. They wouldn't agree about to define the religion the same way. You ask a Sunni and you ask a Shia, And there will be moments when they're explaining the religion that they will start arguing with each other because they do not agree. I know it's
right, and I agree with you, but you have to understand what are those arguments based on, what are they arguing about. So I think, everyone should go and ask a Sunni and a Shia what do they agree on and what do they disagree on, right? But I don't agree that two Muslims will not agree. I mean, there's millions of Muslims who, agree on things. And again, I have to, make the emphasis that what we agree upon is the Quran. That's the foundation, the rock that Islam stands upon, the book, the Quran, and the Sunnah, not people's interpretation or so on. So it has to be based upon the Quran and the Sunnah. So we have to make sure that these people...
You need the interpretation. You need... The Quran is written without vowels, even to
understand... That's what I... Listen, no, you don't understand. Again, please, with all due respect, right, the tashkil and, the vowels, this is a total different, thing that you don't have knowledge about, and I wouldn't get into things that I don't have knowledge about in Judaism, right?
Right.
Judaism was written without vowels, okay?
So we have to don't know how much about Islam, but okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so we have to be careful not to, but basically what I'm saying is that the Quran stands upon, the Islam stands upon the Quran and the Sunnah. The Sunnah is what interprets the Quran, okay? The Quran was not left to be interpreted by everyone. It has to be interpreted in the light of how the Prophet practiced that Quran. What did he say about certain verses? What did he say about certain? How did he implement it, right? That's where the true Islam comes from. So we have to go back to that. People claim that, I'm interpreting this, and this verse means this, and this is the verse of the sword, and this is what, kill all the Jews, and this is... They have to give their proof. As I said from the beginning when I started this show, that you have to bring proof, right? And of course, there's the Osama bin Ladens out there who think that, everyone is fair game, and there's, the Ayman al-Zawahiri's and all the other ones, I never heard their arguments. All I know is what the TV told me, right? I'm not going to jump in and accuse them, but of course, there's always those people who will take, and the Quran itself says, that people can use their desires and go into whatever, change God's word and take it to whatever level they want, and that's basically where the problem is. It's not the problem with the scriptures, really. It's the problem with people's desires and alternative motives and trying to, use this, hatred to kill Jews or Muslims or Christians or anyone for that matter, use it for... I mean, I heard people trying to use scriptures to justify that you can steal from each other who are of different religions and different things that, you go, but this is human problem. This is our problem as humans. We have to make sure that our desires do not get in the way, do not blind us from what the truth of God is. And I agree with you on the fact that many people are, going and taking these to extremes, and they're really doing a big disservice to humanity and to what the truth should, stand for. But my time is very, very up. I would like to apologize and to ask if I can leave. It's 1:30 in the morning here, and I have to be up for prayer at 5 o'clock. So I hope that I did not upset anyone. I apologize if I raise my voice at a point. Of course, it's people. We're all very passionate about the truth, and I hope that it was a very interesting experience, a very educational experience for everyone. It definitely was for me, and I'd like to thank Thruth Brigade for having me over, and I'd like to thank all the the people that asked questions. I would like to thank Bob Doe for being on the show and for having this discussion, and that's about it from me.
Well, thank you very much, Gabriel. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Good night.